All right, here we are. We're back. It's been a break. It's been some time.
Jason, you haven't mentioned Aurora yet.
I was gonna ask.
I mean, look.
Are you going to mention Aurora, Jason?
Which fan?
I was
Racist?
It's been 2 weeks, but the enduring thought in the back of my mind when I was on vacation with my family was Aurora and their performance at the Esports World Cup and the impressive nature of the development of the Turkish players, and was obviously a testament to an incredibly talented Turkish fan base as well. Yes.
There you go. I'm glad we got that out of the way early. That's the main thing that we're looking for here. Yanko, anything that you want to say about Aurora? You better mention him.
Maybe they'll come up on their own, Chad. I don't know. I was thinking like we need a different fan base to antagonize. You know, like who's next on your hit list?
Just for the record, I am not intentionally antagonizing anybody. I made a tweet from my couch after watching Counter-Strike, and I didn't include their name, and they decided to tell me that they were going to rap my family members and that I'm a racist. So
How dare you tweet from your couch?
I know.
Casually sitting on your couch.
I know. I think that the fans who were tweeting at me don't actually know like what the term racist means. They also don't know what the term victim means. They're learning those things. I think we're getting them there. We're slow and steady, but those select fans who got upset, we'll get them there, guys. And today we're going to do an educational seminar. So, Jason, I wanted you to kind of if you could start talking about racism and your experiences, that would probably be where we could kick off today.
Sure. Well, as a white man in middle class America, I feel like I am the expert on dealing with racism in every aspect of my life.
Your life especially,
my life especially has really been riddled with it, I think. So many important things.
It's all nonsense. It's all nonsense, isn't it? It's the internet. We deal with this from time to time. We get some fan base who get upset about things. We got more pertinent issues to discuss, guys.
Oh shit!
I think it's just funny.
With pertinent issues.
Also, what you said, it's fine. We'll teach. Some people will never learn, and we don't need to educate them. Some people are just idiots. That's fine. The only problem, the problem with the internet is it's done a lot of great things. We can all agree on that, but it's just given every idiot out there a platform to spew their bile out, right? So that's why it's the best thing.
Bile.
Yeah, he's right.
That's a correct word, Jason.
No, it is. It's just so...
You racist? Because I'm from Serbia, I can't speak English now? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Look it up.
Jason.
Look it up.
You're getting there.
I'm sure we have an English lit professor listening to Talking Counter. Give Jason a dissertation on, I don't know, whatever.
It's just filled with your bile
finished
as well.
English lit. Maybe she can educate you a little bit.
Yeah,
who?
Freya.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Fucking hell. Okay, maybe I could learn a thing or two.
Kind of makes sense now, doesn't it?
It all adds
but
up.
why would you want to learn a little bit about English literature?
Of sentences. Yeah.
I know that Frey wanted to do like school teaching at some point or something along those lines. So it kind of makes sense in a way. It's all connected.
It's just actually found bigger children to work with on the desk.
Fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't really discipline you guys in this. Actually, it's modern schooling. You can't really discipline them at all.
Bro,
there's no discipline in modern schooling.
No physicality to it.
Back in Jason's day.
Contrary to what you guys probably believe and would like to believe, we do not get hit in elementary school. The stick isn't an educational.
Wait, you didn't get hit in school?
No, but
Damn.
They do threaten you in kindergarten. Like, that they were going to cut your fingers off with pliers. We had a couple of those. So they do it at the earliest of stages where it has the most effect, Jason.
Cut your fingers off with pliers?
Yeah, if you're doing something you shouldn't be doing,
Wait, what?
It's like,
why do your teachers just turn into Jack Bauer in kindergarten?
Wait.
Exactly.
You don't mean cut
Great
your
reference.
fingers off with pliers, right?
Or maybe, take the fingernails out, something like that.
What?
Yeah.
It explains a lot. It explains quite a bit, actually, if you think about it, Chad.
What does that mean, Jason?
You know.
Look, here's a throwback. Have you guys seen the movie Matilda? It's from 1996, directed and starring Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
About a little girl named Matilda who ends up having magical powers. And there's a nice teacher at school. I forget her name. It's probably some flowery name. I forget her name. But she was a nice teacher. And Matilda liked the nice teacher. Didn't like her parents. Her parents were horrible. She had this brother. Brother was horrible. They were not a very nice family. And then she had this one teacher at school called Mrs. Trunchbull. Do we all remember Mrs. Trunchbull?
Yeah, she sucked.
She used to put some of the kids in the cupboard, and in the cupboard there was like nails and everything like that, and it was quite scary. I had, and I'm sure I've told this story before, I had a teacher in like year 1 so we go like preschool and then we go into primary school, and primary school was like 1 to 7, and then high school is like 8 to 12 or whatever. It's probably different per state, and it's probably even changed because I'm an old fuck and school was a long time ago. But yeah, so it was like year 1, and we had, or year 2 maybe, and so we're only probably 5, 6, 7, like those quite young ages. And we had this teacher, Mrs. Trunchbull, and we had a couple of naughty boys in our class. One of them, his name was Tyrone Clements, and one of them, his name was Adam. Fuck, he's changed his last name. He's changed his last name because he's doing stuff with lizards and stuff now.
Bad?
No, but he's like a bit of like a Steve Irwin type guy. Like he always loved animals and snakes and
his
lizards.
last name to some kind of branding, like Adam
I've seen him on
or something like
I've seen him on Instagram a bit. He was always a nice guy, but he was a naughty boy in year 1 or year 2. And Mrs. Whatever the fuck her name was, I forget. Used to lift him up, and that was the
We'll
that was
just
a
they're all
fictitious one.
Trunchbull in this.
But either way, she used to lift these 2 boys up and carry them around, like when they had done shit wrong. And she once threw a chair at Tyrone, right? A chair. This is children we're talking about. She threw a chair at Tyrone. It missed him and almost hit a girl called Zoe in the back of the head because I was sitting next to Zoe. I saw it happen.
Poor Zoe.
She didn't get hit.
She didn't get hit,
but
but
she
it
almost
had to
got
be
hit.
traumatizing to a certain extent, you know?
Yeah. One time, Tyrone and Adam tried to go across the road to the shops because we were across the road from some shops, and she caught them and carried them back. She was an interesting teacher.
One man's traumatizing is another man's learning experience, Jason.
Or fetish, you know?
True. Also
Yeah,
fair.
Sure.
Also fair. I can't dispute it.
Another interesting tidbit from my life in the last week and a bit. I was just listening to Theo Von's podcast, and he was talking to, and the title of this is Young Amish Male. So I'm learning a bit about the Amish way of life. And then I've been sick and watching lots of Counter-Strike. So my life hasn't been very exciting, guys, other than the rigmarole that went down with the Turkish fan base.
I think Jason's doing something, but I think Jason knows a thing or two about the Amish community. They get to like
I do know a thing or two about
go
the
out
Amish
for a
community.
year, right? And
Rum
they can
Springer.
come back or not?
Yeah, I don't know what it's called, but yeah, they
Rum
have, like,
Springer.
Yeah.
There he goes.
I'm learning about it right now.
Oh, that's actually what it's called? That sounds like something
Rumspringa.
out of a fairy tale. Okay. No, there's a lot of
That was
Amish that live in
Rumpelstiltskin.
Pennsylvania country where my extended family lives. So like we've hung out with the well, not hung out, but we've
Are you
spent some
part
time
Amish?
around the Amish. No. Not part Amish. But you know,
Are you Amish adjacent?
I buy their goods. You know, I buy their
Bro.
woodworking. They are very good at home repairs. They toss things up. It's crazy, man. They don't do any of the electricity. Like even in the winter, you'll see them trudging out to their little outhouses in like the dead of night just to like take a piss in the middle of the night.
Fair.
There's like 4 feet of snow, and I'm just like, oh, that's.
It would be hilarious though, Chad, if Jason already being like whatever, half Irish, half Italian, half who knows what, right? That he was
American.
connected to the Amish community, but his nickname is Moses. Like how many, cultures / religions
Faith-based
can one man
traditions.
take?
Can I tap into?
Yeah.
Well, we got our own
Melting
nicknames
pot,
for
baby.
him.
Which processor do you have? Which AMD?
Me?
Yeah.
7800X3D. I want to upgrade to the 9800X3D.
So I was going to ask you because I need to upgrade too. Like there is a 9950 X3D as well. But that
So
feels like too much. Isn't it like it's like that thing where it's better to have a higher base hertz or
I'm not an expert. I'm actually a moron.
It's
as-
actually very important in this specific conversation to let everyone know that none of us know anything about what the fuck we're talking about. I cannot stress that enough.
So
Please continue.
what happened when I was buying the 7800X3D? There was the 7950,
50, yeah.
right? But Rush said that the 78 was better.
right.
So I would go with the
I remember
98, or I would check with Rush or JRaz. They're both like super geeks into this type of shit. Like they look at the builds and they look at the stress testing and all that type of
I'll
shit.
check because I know even with Intels before it was like the highest one in the current generation wasn't the one that ran CS the best, like because those one have like so many cores. They're good for doing other shit, whether it's, I don't know, editing, processing fucking graphics, or I don't know, just again like Jason said, talking out of our ass here.
Yep.
I just asked Rush, so we might get a response at some point soon. I know he's around, so we can probably get an answer, and I will regurgitate said answer. But if you're going to purchase right now, Yanko, get the 7800.
No,
I mean the 9800.
98. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I'll do that. Yeah, I need to change the fucking all the setups.
I was
Need
at
to
the
upgrade.
boot camp.
Yeah, it's a deal breaker for players.
Really?
Like, actually, like people like are when they hear it's not AMDs, they just don't want to come. Even though it still runs pretty well on the, what do we have?
Holy shit, okay.
12,900 like K, you know, like it's
Yeah.
and it can be overclocked and everything. Like the game runs really, really well, but it just whenever the team's here, they're like, you know, they don't even want to give it the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
That's
Should
actually
come to that
incredible.
point. No, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, but everything else is awesome. But so I'm gonna do that in the next week or two.
I think the thing is when they're playing like online qualifiers like they have been for Blast and stuff, they obviously want the, like if you were boot camping for a LAN event like an ESL one, which has Intel processors, then I think you should just prac on the Intel processor, right? But if you're playing a qualifier to qualify for the event, and that's going to do a lot for VRS points, I can understand that, like that type of angle. It's just, I'm curious, does that mean all the other boot camp facilities have changed to AMD? Because they probably all were Intel as well. Like,
I mean, some people have had AMD already. Like 50, like the 5000 series something or whatnot. Some have upgraded, but I don't really I mean, we're aiming to be the best, you know, in what we offer. So that's just, we sort of,
That's part and parcel for the business.
regardless of the preference of the players, like and it's not just a matter of preference anymore. Like AMD is superior.
yeah.
You know, like Intel was for so many years.
But you can stay with you just need to change the motherboard, right? And the processor?
Yeah, that's the positive part. Everything else fits in
The
the
RAM,
rig,
the graphics
so
card
I
are all
just need
good.
to change the.
It's not a cheap process though, mate. I don't envy having to do that en masse. That's wild.
I think it's probably a 1K, a little bit over 1K per PC.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, it's not cheap, man. That's one of the things. It's like,
And that hits you quick too, and then you can't get any. If they're saying we're not coming, if it's not AMD, then you're like, oh well, fuck. Well, it's kind of a necessary.
Yeah.
True.
You know, there's
it's
no.
also the
wiggle
thing
room
with the
this.
monitors though. Like I was looking at the new Zowie, the 600 hertz one, and it's to buy it here in Malta is like $1,200, which that's obviously not a cheap investment, but Counter Strike is what we do, and I would want to be playing on the best that I can, even though I'm, it's just for research purposes. It's nothing serious. But like that type of outlay, and those upgrades are happening pretty frequently these days. I remember when it was a big jump when we went from fucking like 120 hertz to 144, and then then it's kind of gone crazy since then. Then 240,
the
360,
240 was a big one, yeah.
600 now. It's like fuck, where just it's going nuts.
Chad, were you playing at events when you had to get the refresh rate fix on like Windows XP to get 120 hertz? Otherwise, you were playing on 60. Were you playing that old school?
I did have like the panels, the flat panels when they came out, and I was definitely playing on 60 or 75 hertz.
There used to be like a fix you had to install onto XP to unlock the 120 hertz. So some players would have it and some wouldn't, and it was a huge deal back in the day. But those hertz jumps are wild, like how the game feels.
Yeah, I've only played on the 600 like very short periods when we've been at events and we've had them. Most of the time they're giving us like a 360. I'm on a 360 right now, but I would love to see. And I said I was going to do it when I got back, but I've just been like CBF. I've been sick, and then I haven't been doing anything, so I got to get on top of some shit.
Still an area where I know absolutely nothing about what I'm talking about, but haven't we gotten to a point to a certain extent where like the advancement is we're not even like capable of like taking advantage of that level of.
Yeah, they said that about the human eye can't see more than 30 FPS or some dog shit, right? Like that. But now,
even discounting that, don't you need to get 600 FPS in game to take advantage of the 600 monitor?
If you get what Yanko's going to get, if you get a 9800 X3D and you have like a 4080 or
so the top.
I don't even know if you need a 4080. Yeah. You're probably going to be hitting that on most of the maps. So that's why. That's it. Like, players, mate, remember when fucking Shroud used to use native and nobody did, and he complained he couldn't get like enough FPS to run the game back in the day, and now like everyone wants like it makes sense, but it's like everybody wants to have like 500 FPS plus 600 hertz monitors. Like it's crazy where we're at.
Rops was the one who tweeted like, unless you have a 9800 X3D, is like that's the only and where the game runs sort of as it's supposed to. But again, there's a couple of guys who know very, very, very little about the
I would say also with pro players, there's probably a mental aspect to it as well. When like you know that there's PCs that can run the game with more FPS, and you're competing on one that's getting 100 less. Like in your head, you're like, this PC fucking blows.
I don't even know if everyone is using 600 hertz monitors like the TOs.
Not all of them, no. And not at all
right?
the events.
So even that isn't the industry standard yet, because I was looking at that too, and I'm like, I can wait with this. I have to change the processor.
The price will come down on those,
360 hertz is like, good enough for now.
Like that's the thing, right? Like, I think they obviously want it to be as optimal as possible for players, but with the cost of all these things, the TOs will need to upgrade as it goes, and then it comes and goes with different sponsorships. Aren't the ESL events at the moment sponsored by Zowie? Like, because I always see the Zowie team. Like in Cologne, for example, like Shox was there as one of their like head ambassadors. I should have had a chat to him about some stuff because they had a whole crew there. And it's been at other events too where they're getting pros to come in and test. This is what I really like about some of these vendors. Same thing with Jimmy from Razer that we talk about from time to time. Like he'll come, he'll talk to the pros. They'll talk about like, he'll sit there and talk about the clicks with the players or like the all this different stuff. And there's some players who are really good with their feedback. They'll talk like, and it's that type of data is invaluable, right? Like, so I love the fact that some of these companies are having the pro players there who are the ones who are stress testing these things or looking for the little details. I think that's really cool. Obviously, it's just for their bottom dollar. But yeah, I think I've kind of gone on a tangent here. I don't know where we're going.
But I think it's also it feels like you have to do it that way, like slowly, just chill around. Talk a little bit here, a little bit there, because they're so stubborn, players, about their, beliefs. Like for so long, they didn't want to use wireless gear, right? Because of input lag and whatnot. And definitely, in the early days, there were some deficiencies, but still, it took so long for people to start using it. And usually, if a really good player starts using something like that, that's gonna set off an avalanche right to everyone else copying it, because if it's good enough for Zaivu, if it's good enough for Ops, right, then it's good enough for me as well.
Just like the Wu-Ting keyboard, it's no longer a sponsor of the show, but it's the creme de la creme. That's a free plug, Jason. They get that one for free.
It's a free plug. I'll give them one for free too. This keyboard is the first time I felt like a keyboard is actually like taking the step like two levels above everyone else. It's wild.
I don't know whether to take it with me to Stockholm or not, because we've obviously got EPL coming up. I think I was talking to Kinga, excuse me. We're in a different hotel than we were last time, which is a shame. I really liked that hotel we're in last time because it had a nice gym.
Did we get closer to the studio or further?
I don't even know if that's possible, bro, unless we're going to live in some tents or something. Like, that's a fucking industrial area.
Well, that's why I'm wondering is like, what part of town do we move into? Because I'm going to bring Jane and Andy out for a week.
Okay, I can give you. I won't give it to the people at home. I'll just post it to you. 1 second.
I was looking for. I think you could probably buy it. I was trying to see if they have it on the website.
Which?
Like a travel case for the keyboard.
Oh,
like
yes,
you could buy a travel case for the ADHE.
Yeah, you can. Maybe I'll try and buy it right now. Actually, that's a great call.
That's what I was planning on doing, so I could bring it to events.
Yeah, that's a great shout. That's fair. I think I already have 2 in the basket because I said I was going to buy one for Rush. So I might order these FedEx economy export 22.99, 2 to 10 business days. We ship from the EU. That's great news.
Perfect.
Gonna order it right now.
Lovely.
I'm going to the checkout.
Oh, absolutely nailed it.
Is there a code I can use? No.
Just chuck it in there. Maybe you get a new Woo.
It doesn't feel like fucking EWC was a week and a half ago, does it? Or is that just me?
It was longer ago.
Really? I guess time is going differently for us because when I jumped in this call, you two were talking about family time, and I'm sitting there going, Jason can't sleep because the kid is fucking awake at all times and shit. And I'm like, mate, I sleep whenever the fuck I want. Look, my life is definitely more hollow and meaningless, but I get to sleep, right? Like I get to go to sleep. So it's really, what do you want to value? Do you want to wake up to an empty apartment every day on your own and have nobody to get you to do anything, and then you feel like glum, or do you want to not sleep because your kid's having a tough time?
You know,
right?
Chad, the grass is always greener. I'll tell you what, there are some days where I wake up and I'll be like, man, I wish this could be 5 years ago. I'm waking up hungover in some random hotel somewhere in the world. You don't know where it is. It's pitch
Not
black
at any
outside.
event.
Jet lag.
Not working an event. Just went on a trip for himself.
With a baddie under my arm, you know, so we could keep going. We could
Open the
keep
blinds
building
and,
up.
oh my God, it's Thailand. What have I done?
Oh,
How did they get here?
different type of baddie then in that case, I think, Jason. But yeah. Gosh.
Well,
What a
we
time
had
to be alive.
pertinent information that you wanted to get to, Chad.
Did we?
You started the day by saying, I have pertinent news. And then we transitioned into talking about processors.
Shit. I don't know if I do have that type of news anymore.
I have something that can kick us off because we missed it when it happened because we were busy.
Okay.
But we can just touch on it really quick because we didn't get to it on any episodes. Was the complexity news of them?
Oh, so it's
pulling
not
out.
about Aurora.
It's
When are
not
we getting
about
to
Aurora.
Aurora?
We're gonna keep that for
Soon,
anticipation. Yeah, we're gonna let that one sit for a little bit longer.
Do you think we're going to be able to air that start bit because of the type of words I quoted that were used? Like, there's a pretty hard one.
Right, but YouTube did change its. It did change. It said we're allowed to swear now within the first.
Yeah,
but
but
do you think
like-
that one goes past swearing?
I think you can just like in conversation, right?
Yeah,
Like,
you didn't-
I wasn't
You didn't
threatening
threaten
anybody.
You were just relaying the word that was said to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's fun.
And it's not a swear word, right? It's not like we're
It's not a swear word.
No, so I think
think
it's probably okay.
I think the YouTube policy change is also a trap. You know, it's a trap card. So now you do start swearing more, and then they just
You want me to beep it?
lower the
I can beep
visibility.
it, and we can just do
Nah,
the best
don't
of both
beep
worlds.
it. It made me seem like a bit of a pussy, I think. Just keep it in there.
There's no
See what-
beeping on this fucking show, Jason.
All right.
Yeah.
If you don't want something, we edit it out and pretend it was never said. We don't beep.
We don't half-ass it with a beep.
Yeah.
So the complexity news, let's just quickly, because most people who are listening should probably be familiar with what happened. Complexity pulled out of Counter-Strike. They're still in the esports space. They have other games and stuff, but Counter-Strike wasn't sustainable for them. Their team, or it was more than their core, 4 of their 5 players were bought by Passion UA. That was Nyx, JT, and then you have Halzerk and Grim. And on top of that, then they kept Kavem, or like the guy, the Ukrainian player from Passion UA. It's a Ukrainian organization, and they've joined that team. And weirdly enough, TC is the coach of that team, who is the old Complexity coach. So they've
that.
swooped in, they've taken the core, they've cut the legs out from under Complexity, and then Complexity have left CS for the interim. This isn't the first time this has happened, just so people know the lineage of Complexity. Jason would know the very early history, you know, back when Jason Lake was running this team with players like Bullseye, et cetera, many years ago. Then Complexity as a brand alongside of 3D, back when the Championship Gaming Series existed, what they did was they latched on to those already established names. And so you had New York 3D and you had, was it LA Complexity, I think it was?
Yep.
And
then
I
when-
think, I don't know unequivocally, but I think Jason Lake lost control of the brand after that because of
they had to
contracts and everything
sign
along those lines.
all the business rights over to the CGS, which when it went defunct, still held on to the rights to it. So he had to spend a
Yeah.
couple years battling to buy back the rights to the organization that he started so that he could rebuild it.
Yeah.
So he's been on a journey. He's been on a fucking journey.
And then obviously the early CSGO days of Complexity with like Nothing and Sean Gares in the early majors, right? When they were actually, well, I think they were like top 4 at the first major, weren't they? Complexity, or
Yeah.
they're at least top 8
Even towards the end of 1.6, the Brazilian lineup
with Fallen. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty expansive history for Complexity, and I think the reason that it's sad to see them leave is not, in my mind, not so much because it's like, oh no, we've lost a flag bearer for North American Counter-Strike. It's more that Complexity is kind of part of the tapestry of CS over such a long lineage. It's almost like an SK, which have dipped in and out as well. But Jason Lake always seems like he's a guy who wants to be there for the betterment of the players, as
he's
opposed
had
to the
to-
betterment of himself. Excuse me one second.
And just for the esport, I mean, he's had to battle just to stay involved in esports a number of times. So yeah, it is missing a big figurehead like that I think everyone could appreciate when you heard him speak about the game and speak about the team and how much love he put into it. So I think he risked bankruptcy 3 times over the years, just to keep control of Complexity and keep fighting to keep Complexity alive in esports. So it sucks seeing someone who's invested that much have to back out of a game that he no longer sees as viable, despite the intense love for it, obviously.
But we've spoken to Graham about this before, right? In terms of it's hard for them to get gambling sponsors and stuff, which a lot of the teams are sponsored by, and that's where probably main revenue comes from. You look like somebody like Aurora, right, who were Eternal Fire. They weren't able to get gambling sponsors in Turkey because of the laws or whatever. Then they go to Aurora, which kind of bypasses that problem because it's not a Turkish organization, and then they're able to get gambling sponsors and whatnot, and it's fine, right? Because, but I guess this is kind of the same deal, but you weren't really going to be able to pull that off with Complexity when it was so embedded in North America. And then you have other problems too, right? You go back to 2023 when they still had a liege. They played FaZe in that grand final in Sydney. And when they started CS2, they were a pretty strong team. Like, we're like, oh, okay. I don't think people thought they were a top 4 team or anything crazy like that, but they had a couple moments. Yeah. And then that whole merger happened, and Complexity's team was much weaker brand-wise as well as results-wise than somebody like FaZe. So part of that merger, they held on to FaZe as opposed to holding on to the Complexity roster. Then Jason Lake got to keep the name and stuff, but then he had Graham and all these kind of things, and then try and do it more grassroots again, or maybe not grassroots, but I remember seeing him flying around to events, and I'd see him, and I'd be like, oh, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, I'm trying to, talk to sponsors and get all this stuff going, and obviously was never able to really stick the landing, which is likely why John left, right? Why Lige left, because he's a player who's worth a lot of money, probably wasn't getting a lot of money, had to go somewhere
why they
else.
also didn't mind him leaving, because they would get to sell him for the little buyout clause and a little extra cash to keep things afloat.
Yeah. So I think just the general sentiment of this is it's just sad that Complexity are no longer in the space. I hope that eventually they are able to return. But we've had, how long do you think this laboring battle with North American Counter-Strike kind of treading water and occasionally head going under has been happening for now, Jason? 5 years, 6 years?
It depends on how far back you really want to go, but I think certainly the start of COVID would probably be, or actually I guess probably 2019 is when it really kicked off, when the Pro League changes. That was kind of the first domino, I would say. The Pro League changes to take away some of the move-up spots away from the North American teams. I think that was probably the first domino. Probably didn't realize it I don't think we realized it at the time in the moment.
Well, it just
that it
felt
was
like
the
it
first
would
domino.
give better quality of competition, didn't it? It was like, we're going to get better teams because there's such a disparity between the top set of European teams and the top set of North American, who maybe at one point had 3 teams, I would say, that were pretty good, right? Liquid had probably had North America probably had 3 teams at one point in time that were pretty good. It's like, was it back in the COG days?
And we still kind of had, well, there was Liquid, there was, I don't know, which heyday do you want? There was like the Liquid NRG/EG time towards 2019.
That was okay. Yeah.
Liquid Complexity, or like, even like kind of Liquid and iBuyPower way back when, before the bans happened, were 2 like solid North American teams very briefly. That Cloud9 team was good at points. So we usually had 2 with like a third knocking on the door, which seemed like a healthy amount for the North American region, especially considering we had all the other, we still had the international teams at some points too, Brazilians and Australians over there. So the scene was healthy at those points. But yeah, I think 2019 was maybe the first domino when that changed. Valorant and COVID kicking off at the same point was like 6 dominoes right in one blow.
Yeah.
But ever since then, it's kind of been this just kind of like up and down wave, mostly down. That's the thing for me with the Complexity departure is like, I think it's also a pretty good indication that at the moment there's not going to be able to be like a revitalization of the scene in terms of teams and players until we get a revitalization of the tournament circuit. Like,
but that's happening, don't you think?
Yeah, it's getting there. We're getting some things that are coming up, and a few more events are coming in. A few more people in the scene are getting involved in trying to build those events and create those opportunities. Fragadelphia is getting more important with VRS. You see bigger teams and like tier 2 European teams flying over to try and get some extra VRS points, which can only help increase viewership, which hopefully brings in more money, which hopefully brings in more resources and more scale. So it's getting there and healing. It's on the path. But until that gets situated, you're never going to be able to have an org that's able to sell in the American market for a Counter-Strike team. Like, it's just not there.
I wonder if law changes will ever come into place in the US where then gambling sponsors, like, I say gambling, I should say sports betting is probably more like what I'm meaning.
Well,
I don't mean
think
like roulette tables and fucking that shit. I mean like sports betting.
Every time I look into traditional sports in the States right now or hear something on the news, like, they have a very similar quote unquote problem of whatever you want to call it, in which traditional sports throughout the scene is really funded by gambling as well right now. Like, gambling is like one of the sports betting is huge. Like, fantasy gambling is huge, to the point where even those scenes have kind of been overrun and overtaken, where that's the majority of the marketing and sponsorship and partnership money is coming from that same area. So I'm wondering, I'm assuming it has to be legal. I'm wondering if maybe in the esports side of things, it's the way the business is set up that's making it difficult to do things.
Well, I think it's also a question of maybe it's. There's definitely been an increase in states that have legalized gambling and sports betting in the U.S. Right outside
slowly
of
though, right?
Nevada and it being Las Vegas, right? Like Jersey is a huge market.
We fucking love New Jersey.
We love New Jersey.
Shout out New Jersey.
But I don't know if there's maybe still laws about teams actually being sponsored by those companies, right? And some of the details like that. I think ultimately the problem is twofold, I guess, for complexity. Like even if you go on their website right now and you go to partners, there's only 2 listed, and it's Glorious, which is Glorious Gaming.
It's like PC building, right?
Yeah, in Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
And then it's Glitch Energy.
Some form of energy drink.
Fitness and gaming fanatic who want to bring quality healthcare supplements. Yeah, it's like either energy drink or like
G
supplements.
Fuel or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, and that's it, right? For an org that you guys have mentioned has been around for ages and has had tons of accomplishments and achievements over the years. It's a huge brand. Kind of feels weird that they aren't able to have more sponsors secured, right? And I think maybe, unfortunately, during those times where they were bought by the group behind Dallas Cowboys or whatever, and they had an influx of cash, is like they weren't really able to capitalize on that and build a better roster. You know, I don't want to say a championship winning team, but let's say just a more competitive roster, which then would have drawn more eyes, would have drawn more sponsors, right? And then when Jason Lake sort of repurchased the team, again, it feels like he was doing a lot of that just out of his own pocket and savings, and wasn't able to find investors that would go into the venture jointly with him, right? And then it became sort of instead of a race to the top, a race to survive, really, in a way, you know, and just keep it going and hoping that you're going to find some success. And then the second part of that problem is the lack of talent in NA. I mean, you know, there's no new players out there that move the needle significantly for anyone.
I feel there's too many choices for those players, Janko, don't you? Like, because like Valorant is, I don't want to say it's an easier path, but it's definitely a more ironed out path for those players to go to. And it's just, we've probably lost the players we lost, like Ethan and stuff going, that's whatever, right? But I think it's this next generation you're talking about that we might not even get to see because they're going to Valorant instead of coming to Counter-Strike.
I don't know how much Valorant has to do with it because there's such a huge gap in the two scenes, like in the amount of games and officials and tournaments that you have, right? Like if you're a young kid, even an American one, surely you want to compete as much as possible. You know, like you're going to be bored if you have.
I think you're thinking about it the wrong way. I think if you're a young kid, I don't know what age I would have started playing CS. That was 99. I was 12. So if you're a 12-year-old, you're probably, you're going to be playing the games that your friends are playing. So it might not be you, but if you have 3 friends who are playing Valorant and they say, "Hey, you want to play some games?" You say, "I want to play Counter-Strike." They say, "No, we want to play fucking Valorant." You're going to hop in and play Valorant. And the more you have the younger kids taking that stance, the more kids are going to just end up naturally drifting in that direction. I don't think Valorant it hurt for sure. I think eventually if kids stay down a competitive path and eventually their path is going to intersect with Counter-Strike, and I think there's going to be more of a chance to get them away. But I think certainly there's a draw towards other games. There's draws towards Fortnite. There's draws towards Valorant. I'm sure those all exist similarly in Europe, although the reach of Counter-Strike in Europe is much stronger.
Yeah, it has like bit stronger roots. It feels like, which is.
But I mean, no one starts playing
history in NA.
No one starts playing Counter-Strike at the age of 12 thinking they're going to go compete. That's something they discover maybe a year in, right?
But it's changed a bit, don't you think, Jason? Like because back when we were doing it, the money that you could make was less than most average jobs, right? So like CGS time for me, for example, I was getting paid $2,500 a month in 2008, which was good money, which is why CGS killed 1.6 because it opted for Source for some reason. I don't know why they chose Source because the initial thing they ran with was like Sweden
they wanted the better graphics to be able to sell to tech sponsors.
Which, yeah, but that's so crazy because they never even ran the game in first person. It was all fucking third person, over the shoulder bird. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
Anyway, regardless of their dumb decisions, like that essentially killed 1.6 in North America, at least for that 2 to 3 year period of time, because it took all the good 1.6 players, said, we're going to pay you good money, especially if you're a franchise player. You
And
made
you're not
more
allowed
than
to play in
2.5.
1.6 tournaments. You're not allowed to play 1.6 at all in any leagues.
And sure, it was good because it did kind of take the best source players and the best 1.6 players and put them together, which was good. I think that probably helped with like the knowledge base, but the game was simpler, I will say. I think it was simpler. It definitely had some gimmicks to it, like one-way smokes and that type of stuff, but I think the game in general was more run and gun, and that killed 1.6 in North America for a period of time when 1.6 in Europe continued. It didn't stop.
It's because not all the 1.6 teams in Europe went to go play CGS. CGS started in NA and didn't really catch on in Europe until the second season.
No, it was in both seasons. It's just the lack of teams, right? Because if you look at it, for some reason they gave the United Kingdom 2 slots because and they both had British teams. So you had London Mint and you had Birmingham Salvo. Then you had Berlin Alliance, and you had, there was one more. I think there was only one more European team, right? I think it was like two European teams, and it was just less. Like there wasn't as many slots.
Smaller.
Whereas
that's the thing.
North America had like 6 or 8 or 10 or some shit.
1.6 continued in Europe. In North America, all the 1.6 teams went to CGS. So every 1.6 league just ended. Every tournament stopped being run. Every league ended. And then when CGS died, there was nothing to go back to. And that's when we had the first like evacuation of all the former Counter-Strike pros just retired. Like, you know, like 10 years worth of CS pros were just like, or 8 years were just like, oh, we're done. we're out. There's nothing left. And that was the first breakdown. This is kind of, I guess, the second extinction, if you want to call it that. This whole like Valorant COVID combination that caused everyone to go away from Counter-Strike. So yeah, NA scene's just been gutted a couple of times, and every time we've built back up, there's been another extinction level event to take away all that experience and all that knowledge, which is one of my theories and part of the reasons why I think this feels like I'm talking about like a fucking ancient conspiracy. But it's one of the reasons why I think most of that knowledge has never been able to like transfer and be built upon throughout the scene the way in Europe it has. Is just we've never had that ability to pass it down because, wow, okay, well, 4 of our 5 best players just got permanently banned from the game. They no longer get to play. They no longer get to like pass on their knowledge. And now you have generation just kind of missing due to COVID and Valorant. And then you had the whole thing with CGS. So yeah, the NA scene just has not been able to find any stability, you know, for whatever fucking reason.
It's also one of these things where, and I don't fault these organizations, like Cloud9 have made some really bad choices with rosters. Obviously, the one that they tried to put together with the Russian super team that somehow didn't work. And now we can talk about Electronic being benched on VP as well at some point here. And then you had EG being mismanaged into the ground, but at least they tried some unique approaches, which at the time I said, it seems silly, but I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and see how it pans out. And it didn't pan out, unfortunately, with all those academy rosters. Liquid have tried to plug holes, not by getting talent from the region, but by getting talent from elsewhere. So I think the choices of some of these organizations as well has hampered the next generation of player. But because it's such a competitive scene, you need to try and stay at the upper echelon or buy your way into the upper echelon. And either those choices were poor or those choices didn't pan out as they wanted. And now you find yourself in a place where the team that's representing North America with the most players is fucking M80.
Yeah. And shout out to M80 because haven't they looked great online?
Yeah. Do we start?
We don't need to. But the transition is there.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. The transition is there. Do we want to talk more about North American CS?
I just wanted to say that like the problem is the lack of talent, because look at what Furia was able to do by getting a CIS operator, getting Molodoy, who didn't even have that many maps against top 50 opposition, like mega inexperienced, right? But he's pretty raw, but he's extremely talented, and they were able to use him and mold him a little bit. And the Holy Kinder thing, we don't need to talk about Furia right now, right? But which was the last talent from NA that had that much impact? You'd probably have to go back to Twists.
Twists, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. In the FaZes team.
His first games, on HL or like in Pro League were in 2017 with Misfits and Sean Gares. He was in Liquid already in 2018, right? Like if you want to talk about like rookie year in a tier 1 organization. So, I mean, that's crazy, right? And once you have that, everything else becomes more difficult. Now, why is there that lack of talent? sure, maybe some players are more attracted to Valorant and whatnot, but it also comes back to, the money, even from being a top tier player, isn't as life changing perhaps as it is for players from other regions. So that's why they're just into it way more, and they're committed a lot more. And then I do agree with Jason that a part of it is like it sort of fizzled
Culturally.
out. Yeah, it's fizzled out to the point where just don't run into people who will teach them how to do it, and not just that to teach them, but who will show them how fun it can be, to compete and play with like a team, and
Sure.
first some randoms that you met and so on, and then you're going to the next level and the next level, and you're meeting guys and you're doing it together, and then you get that sense of camaraderie, right? It feels like one of the more difficult ways to do it, if you're just solo grinding all the time, playing with different people all the time, and sort of making it that way, feels like maybe not even the more difficult way, but in my eyes, definitely a less fun way to make it into the pros.
I want to use your little leap off point, Jason, before with M80 into online Counter-Strike, I guess, because I've been watching nonstop, right? Since I came home from EWC, I haven't been well, so I haven't really been able to do too much, and I've been just working on making sure I'm resting. So it's been a lot of sitting on the couch and watching. And I watched, I would say, almost all of the open games for London, and simultaneously sitting there watching some of the Draculand games as well, because there's some interesting names there. It's just interesting how, right, the biggest losses, obviously, by having online Counter-Strike is the lack of interaction as a viewer, right? You don't get that interaction between the players, either their teammates or across the line to the opposing team. But for a viewer overall, unless you're a Counter-Strike hardcore or a mega aficionado, like, we know that online Counter-Strike is fucking dog tier, right? Like, it's harder to have the stakes there because of the lack of intensity. Even some of these teams are at boot camp spaces, but still the online environment, ping for different places. Everyone's on different PC specs, different monitor specs. It's not an even playing field. And it also doesn't have the pressure. Like the old, what was it, Cold Zero joke, sitting in your bedroom drinking Coca-Cola. You literally see some of these guys with Coca-Cola on the table in front of them, a coffee mug to one side. Like, they're in their safe space. And the thought process is like, most people can perform in their more comfortable environment, right? Going to LAN and being able to prove it in front of everybody, that's the main thing. So, my viewing experience with that in the back of my mind, obviously going to be more tainted. But I would say for the average viewer, the biggest lack of visual is having the players physically there, interacting on the show, the set, they're hearing them yelling. That's probably the biggest loss. Otherwise, the Counter-Strike they're watching, in some cases, I could argue it might even be more entertaining because they're doing crazier things than they would, because that's another point of this.
Taking more risks, being more
Exactly.
aggressive.
People online are going to take exactly those more risks, going to go for that play, as opposed to on LAN, they might get a bit tight and tense and be stressed
Be
and not
careful here,
make that
Chad.
move.
It sounds like you're advocating for more online Counter-Strike in the circuit.
I'm not. I think that because we're in such a modern era of Counter-Strike fan who might not even necessarily be Counter-Strike players, and the only type of Counter-Strike they play is online, I just saying from their perspective, they probably don't see too much of a difference. I think that the purists and the old heads and the players, because you ask a player, they're definitely going to bash online CS, right? They're going to say it's shit. They're going to say it's not worth as much. But for the average viewer, this is all I'm saying, it probably doesn't make a huge difference to the viewing experience.
I think the experience is probably 99% the same outside of the webcams looking different.
Sure. But, yeah, because the players just use their phones. They don't. For people who aren't aware, most of the players, they don't want anything open and running that isn't the client that they need to, whatever anti-cheat is being run, and Counter-Strike and TeamSpeak. They don't want anything else open. They don't want any processors. They don't want a webcam plugged in. They don't want anything taking power, because those players, superstitious motherfuckers, right? So they're going to use their phones. They're going to prop it up to one side. They're going to put it on a weird angle. And the quality is going to be bad. Maybe the Wi-Fi dips. You're going to get those things playing into it, those scenarios. But, yeah, I think
I guess the end of this conversation head to is: do you take anything from online Counter-Strike? Like, the viewing experience is the same, but in terms of the results,
you take much less. It's worth less than 50% in my mind, right? Like, the results themselves, in terms of the games themselves and the plays and all that stuff, entertainment value, I take it at 100%. But in terms of when I talk about these teams and these players and what that means going forward, it's less than 50%.
Okay,
because
so what did this M80 run do at the end of the day for you guys?
Just before we get into M80, to give my 2 cents, it's also why you get way more hate for talking about these games, because you always have the fan base who did something, who's going to complain about you're not giving them enough credit because it was online or whatever it was. But I can tell you firsthand, when COVID hit and everything moved online, like, bro, if we were playing online CS, half of the tier 1 players would retire.
They
maybe
check
not
out
half,
mentally.
maybe not half, but the veterans that are towards the end of it would retire. Some of the other guys would whatever, keep going because they don't have anything out better to do. I mean, Olaf retired during COVID. That Fnatic lineup that had
Flusha
JW
did too,
and
didn't he?
Flusha on it. Yeah. I don't know if he retired immediately or took a step back initially or whatever, but it's not fun playing online CS. If you've played, if you're used to going to different countries and tournaments and playing on stage, like, doesn't matter how much money is on the line, who you're playing, it's just not the same feel, nowhere close to the same feel. And it's very difficult to get motivated to the same extent. We had the story from Carrigan, during COVID, where he would plug his gear out the night before, and then the day of the game he would put the jersey on, he would plug the gear, like he was trying to sort of mind game
Give himself
right? Because it's the same environment in which you're practicing, which you're like just sitting at your PC, right? So it's hard to make that mental change.
Intensity leap.
Yeah, right. So, and also with the amount of tournaments, like talking about right now, that you have, and then you come back and now you're playing an online tournament, like you're just going to, obviously you're trying to win, but it's very hard. It's going to be very difficult for you to bring, the same level of intensity or whatnot, or motivation, which is for someone like Vitality. If you look and they played this close game or whatever. I mean, the maps that were close because they lost all the pistols in those maps.
Yeah, there's 6 pistols for FaZe, wasn't it?
Well, I don't know about the last map. I think on last map Vitality won maybe both or at least one. But regardless, so there is a real...
they won both. Yeah, you're right.
There is a real difference for the players, which is why we take it, less than 50%, like Chad said, or something along those lines, which is just the reality of it.
I look at certain things though. So, for example, like FlyQuest. So they didn't have Urcast with them. They got rid of Urcast, right? And they had this JTR guy who was their analyst there as the coach. And they did some listening, and they heard like JTR saying, essentially the attitude's bad and stuff. And he's only a young man. And from what I've heard from the team, he's a good kid and has a good understanding of the game. But putting him in that coaching position when you have people who maybe have bigger egos, right? You have a JKS, you have a Regali, right?
Yeah.
Those type of guys probably not going to be able to command the respect required to be able to pull them out. Because here's one thing I will say, and I think obviously it's great that it's not great. They're at a point right now where the morale is very low. I think they're expecting to be further ahead with the addition of Justin than where they're at right now, because some of the games they play, it's just absolute fucking nightmarish. Some of the games they play, it's like, okay, it was close, but these costly mistakes essentially cost you the game. And it's like, okay, that kind of sucks. So I think that there's a lot of work to be done within that team. And I hope that they aren't too dissuaded with not getting what they were looking for by just plugging in Justin immediately. I talk with some of the guys there, and there should be a coaching change going on in the near future, which I'm hoping does bring some help for in-game lead. Hopefully can shift the vibe a little bit. Maybe they can look at their map pool and try and change up the veto a little bit, because like Nuke, for example, I think they've lost like 8 or 9 times in a row. But one thing I can take away, right, just returning to this online point, is the mood of that team looks fucking dog shit. Right, like there's no hype man. They look like a quiet squad. I'm not saying everybody needs to be a fucking cheerleader and yelling every round and like that, but you need a balance. You need some form of energy being brought and injected into the team, and some camaraderie to want to play for each other. So that's one where I take away the mood on the cams, bad. Right, like that I'll take it at 100%. That one I don't need to take at 50%. That's just generally like FlyQuest really needed those wins. So for a team like FlyQuest or a Fnatic or an M80 or an Ecstatic, like for those guys, it's really important that they were able to get wins in that event, regardless of being online or not, because we're in the pursuit of the major. So for FlyQuest, yeah, I think there's a lot of ground to be made up. I'm still hopefully optimistic. And I think that, hopefully with some good practice, and they still hopefully have enough points for the major, they can show a better face come the major, because I don't think they have any more big boy events between now and the major. So they need to go play some smaller events and hope that they can retain some points.
Well, that's got to be a nasty place to be in.
Yeah, well, I think it's like, what is it, 5 or 6 teams from Asia because of the Mongols and Tailu, or was it Lin Vision? Either way, 2 of the teams having really strong showings at the last major, right? I think that the amount of slots for Asia is 5 or 6 slots, which is pretty good. It adds a nice cushion for them, but they need to course correct by the end of the year and get some good victories in stage 1 if they do end up there to show that this was a good move. But look, I need people to read between the lines here a little bit. I can't just sit here and regurgitate all the conversations I have behind closed doors and stuff. That can't happen. But I think that we're hopefully looking for a positive uptick in the future. So yeah, that's all I'll say about FlyQuest, because normally we don't talk about them too much. So I don't think we need to talk about them too much. But that's just an update for some of the Aussies out there.
I like it. They're a fun team to tune in with. I mean, I could understand the frustration because I'd like them to be further along than they are as well. So I mean, all that makes complete sense to me.
Well, now that you've said it publicly, Jason, I'm sure they'll do everything in their power.
I just want to make sure the Australian fan base doesn't.
We all
doesn't
know Daddy Jason.
Well, we like going to Sydney and Melbourne. So we want to make sure there's still a nice reason to go
when
there.
When I go back to Australia, I would like to be involved in the shoeies, not having them poured directly on my head. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
It's all right, Jason. The Australian fan base will not get upset with you. Even if you make any besmirching comments to the community, I think they would probably still just be cool with it.
Fuck yeah, Australian fan base.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to do M80 because this is the biggest. I mean, like I don't have anything deep to say on their run. I think it's been obviously a
big
cool
surprise,
showing,
though.
but a huge surprise. And I guess the question in the context of the online Counter-Strike is, what expectation does this what does this do for you in terms of watching them make this kind of a run? Close loss to Vitality 2-1, went on to beat Virtus Pro.
Yeah, the Virtus Pro one is probably my initial sticking point. They killed Electronic's career essentially.
They
so
did.
Electronic benched on VP now. I don't know where he goes. I don't know where his future is. So that win right there.
He's got to be cooked. He's got to be cooked.
That win right there was a massive victory. I still think it was strange that they picked Overpass into them, but regardless, they won VP's map pick and then won the series pretty comfortably after that. I think the Na'Vi win, though, is the biggest of the lot. Like beating Fnatic. Fnatic did win the Draculan, but they probably were a little bit burnt out by the point that game came around. And I'm not to detract from the M80 victory because they 2-0'd them. But I think that the biggest win is the one over Na'Vi, and the most condemning loss of the entire event is probably the Na'Vi loss to M80. And this is one of those teams that would definitely be hit by the online lack of intensity.
Man, they were boot camping.
Yes, they were.
They were in a boot camp. Blades, they're all there. I think they understand that it was important for them, right, with how they've been struggling. So they did everything they could to sort of have that feeling for the games.
Yeah, and then they ended up, having a pretty poor event. I don't know how else to put it. They lost to FaZe 2-0. This is where people are like, oh, yeah, Brokey's playing well. This is sick, right? This is where FaZe fans get a little bit excited. But Na'Vi were already in a bad spot. This loss puts them in a worse spot, right? And not significantly, because the spot they're in, like I said, was already bad. But now you're really questioning roster changes.
Yeah, I think the problem is before, let's say in the first half of the year, you would think, okay, they lose to Vitality, they lose to the Mongols. They don't really have that many losses to, teams out of nowhere. But then this season, it starts with, which is weird because they even went to Cologne, right, and beat the Mongols in the playoffs, in the quarterfinals. But then the loss to Astralis, which was online, right, for Bounty. Then at EWC losing to 3D Max, and now here losing to M80. Those are the teams that they didn't lose to before, and that's what makes it alarming now, right? And not even the fact that the games are close doesn't mean too much, because I don't want to say they're not supposed to be, but now you're supposed to win them if they're close.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think the problem is the way I don't know, it doesn't look good on the cams that much too. I think the problem they had, I think they wanted to change more than one player during the break, but they couldn't make the changes. Maybe they couldn't get the players that they wanted, or there just weren't players available for the changes that they wanted to make. So they ended up promoting Makaze as the best player of the academy team, and knew that he was going to have a future in the team one way or the other, right? So at least do that. JL wants to step back. We have to do that one. And I think that's the problem, because they're definitely now in a position in which phase was last season where we were talking about they have to make a change before the major. Like, they have to change something. And they did with the simple Brokey thing, right? And I think Navi are in the same situation where they have to, this team is not going to do anything this season. Like, they're not going to turn it around.
But I still struggle to find the solution.
Turning it around. But the problem is, again, I feel like it's at least a 2-player change, right? Like, they need a significant change. It's not this one guy is really struggling. If they only upgrade this one piece, it's going to give them a huge performance boost, right? It feels like just the core of the team is rotten, and they need to shift it. Like, the team needs a new identity, whether that's new leadership, whether that's I don't know, star player, Opper changing something there, whether that's Elige, as someone who could fit in a team that has more structure and that has bladed and as the coach and is a veteran player. Whatever it is, like, I guess my point is, I think Navi is more than one roster change away from being back in contention.
Yeah, I just was looking. Their next event, they're going to be at the Star Ladder Star Series fall event, right? Which is only an 8-team event. But the teams around them are NIP, Bait, Passion UA, Parivision, Gentlemates, OG, and 9. Now, with kind of what you are outlining there, Yanko, those are teams that these guys should put away every day of the week. Maybe they'll lose a map, maybe it'll get close, but they should still be putting them away.
Especially coming off of a boot camp. Like, we know how much Blade treasures them and talks about it. So that would be really, that would be panic time for Navi.
Are they invited directly to the LAN portion?
I think it is. I think it's all LAN, right?
All LAN?
So the qualifiers are done now. There was online qualifiers, which were all European, which is where we got Paravision, Gentlemates, OG, and 9. That's where those teams were able to qualify from.
Oh, yeah, okay. I see it.
So, like, OG's, not a bad crack, especially if they get going, get some hype. Like, Gentlemates as well. That's the Spanish team. They were Iberian Soul. They signed to Gentlemates, which is a French org now. So this isn't an easy win for Navi, but it's meant to be.
Well, I think the problem too is once you lose to M80 the way they did, that's like blood in the water for every other team who's there that no longer is going to be intimidated by you in any way.
Yeah, so I'm just curious because, like, I don't have the exact ruling, but there will be problems because you need to play like a certain amount of matches with your roster before the invite date for the major. So right now, if you're Navi and you want to make a change, you're going to need to have a certain amount of games under your belt that you're going to need to make the change for the Star Ladder event, which means the Star Ladder event begins on the 18th of September. Today is the 3rd. So you'd have to make that decision like right now. And that's the problem. I don't know where they could really turn for a pickup. Obviously, Elige is in the conversation. People are saying, so what, would you replace Emma with Elige and then hope that it gives you a big firepower upgrade?
No, but the problem is Elige overlaps with Makaze's
exactly.
roles. So either you have to move the kid now.
Who's been fine. Yeah. He's been fine.
He has. But, if you have to move into not his roles, can he make that adjustment? Elige, historically, not a player willing to alter his role is too much, right? So it feels like there you have a clash.
I mean, you don't bring a Legion. If you bring a Legion at this point, that is like panic situation. We have to make a change right now, and you don't make him change in that kind of a scenario.
Or is this one of the situations where, like, Counter-Strike, especially now with some of these top orgs who are investing more in coaches than they are in like star players, for example, is this one of the scenarios where it's like, all right, boys, this is going to just be a dud season, right? As long as we still qualify for the major and we make sure that we get enough VRS points that we're still in invite contention for next season, so the first 6 months of next year, that we can make some big aggressive roster changes after that, right? Like, after this major. So as long as they're just somewhat competitive, because this is the thing, not everybody can win, right? Not every team is capable of winning, and Navi are not in a position right now where the solution is simple. That's not meant to be a pun. The solution is not simple for them to be able to fix this. This is going to be a fix that's going to take a couple of, I don't want to say a couple of years, but a couple of seasons, right, to get back to where they need to be. Because the player changes they need to make are relatively drastic, right? If you're replacing an AWPer, that's not an easy change. And then where are you going? Like, some of these AWPers get picked up for heroic, like this Grix kid, doesn't last like one event, right? Like, so... yeah, and if you're not willing to splash on star power, then you're going to have a hard time too. So I don't know, man. Like, I think Navi are in a really tough spot, and I don't know what the solution is. And I feel like it's going to continue to get worse before it gets any better. That's kind of where I'm at with them.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've nothing really all that positive to say. I'm trying to think of like where the changes would come from, and as I look at the roster in my head, I'm like, well, Bit's kind of the only sacred cow on this team. Like everyone else
Yes.
could
I think we
essentially
did that
be.
in an episode. We said like, if you who are you 100% keeping? Like,
It's Bit.
and
The
Bit
only
is the only
one.
the guy that's sort of you're gonna. Everyone else feels
I have-
expendable.
I don't think he's like sacred, but I have a hard time imagining an Alexi B change. I don't know why, but I know that's been floated. I know you said it a couple times, Yank. I've seen it around a couple of times, and for whatever
It's
reason,
more about who for, though. You
yeah,
know?
in my head, I'm just like, that's not the way to go. But like, I don't really have an argument against it either.
I think the problem is also, like, Alexi has led this organization to a major win, to being the #1 team in the world, right, and everything. So it's easy to now do lazy analysis and say, oh, look at his stats, he's bad individually, you know, their T sides are not too hot or whatever, you know, he should be replaced. I think I'd rather give him a chance with better pieces around him, you know, unless he is also the issue a little bit in terms of the atmosphere in the team or
Right.
you know, something that outside of the server stuff. But you feel like, because you can't change the 3 players, right, for the VRS and everything, it's like you would maybe give him chance for a little bit longer, right, like for an extra season with different pieces that fit maybe better with the team. And then if that doesn't work out, you know, then he is the final piece that you have left to change.
Yeah. This was meant to be an M80 conversation, but I guess Navi was...
I was thinking about how racist you guys were. As soon as we start talking about American players, the conversation just has to shift. You guys just cannot stick on topic.
Well, if I'm going to be completely honest with you and the audience here, Jason, I haven't really been keeping my eye on M80 since the addition of Hexed, right? It's not something that I've really been like tracking too much, because I thought Rec was pretty good, and I think Hexed has been pretty average. But when I look at the stats, their stats are very good, but then you have to actually comb through and look at the opponents they're playing against. It's all local, right? Like it's Blue Jays or Getting Info. They lost the Fragadelphia land to a team called Colsey in a best of 5, right? But they mainly have a lot of wins under their belt with the Hex edition, because most of the games are domestic. There's a loss in here to Wildcard, but there's also a win over Wildcard. Wildcard have Fozy and Stan
They're
back now.
a fucking train wreck right now.
That's a fucking mess. But then they get to play Open London, and this is probably one of the situations where, first of all, the pressure of not being in a LAN environment probably helps this team. The fact that like a lot of the top teams are probably also not looking at M80 like they're a massive threat. Even though they are going to do their prep, they're going to do those things that, you know, this is the Tommy Lerpers Classic. This is the Super Bowl for a team like M80. So taking a map off Vitality, good, right? It being Overpass 2, beating VP, great. Especially like after the first map, and then beating Na'Vi, like fantastic.
Exceptional.
All this is very confident. Like it's a hard run. They didn't have an easy run by any stretch, and then they get to take on Fnatic in that final game, and they handle business. That was the only series of their open run. There was a 2-0, and it was the team that was the worst out of the bunch.
It's funny, too. This is the exact kind of a run that Liquid would love to just have one time, where you go into an event. They had the same situation. Worst seed, you have to play Vitality right out of the gate. You lose to them, but then you go on a crazy run on the lower bracket and just make it work. And Liquid would fucking love to have in a tournament like that, but they just fucking can't pull it off.
Yeah,
Poor bastards.
I think it's an amazing result for M80 because you have to put it into context where they weren't able to even be in the invite bubble for a bunch of the tournaments this year.
True.
A couple of times they did attend. It wasn't good. They were 0-3 in Astana, which was Super Bowl for them at the time. They were able to be at the major, but 1-3 and then being eliminated, nothing to write home about. So just any result at this point in time is going to do wonders for them, and hopefully gives them a little bit of a confidence boost, right, where they can use this now to make a run. They even lost to a mixed Polish team, you know, at one of those Fragadelphia tournaments in the grand final. So they were trying everything to accrue points and to stay in touching distance, right, of maybe these invites and whatnot. So, yeah, I think it's going to be absolutely huge. Beating a team like Na'Vi for them, whether it's online or not, I mean, it's a big feat.
I just had a look on HTV where they have the major qualifying invite predictions. Obviously, it only factors into K. It doesn't factor in any results that are going to happen between now and then. So there's a lot of moving parts here. But for America's representation, right now, Fury is 1, Pain is 2, Legacy 3, M80 are now 4th, right? Obviously, Liquid have dropped out of that. Complexity, a.k.a. Passion UA. Wait, how come they're still in it? Oh, because it's still factoring in 60. I see. Okay. So Passion UA will no longer be in that, right? As far as I am aware, because JT is from South Africa, I don't think he's counted as an American representative. This is another one where I need to double check that rule because they changed that rule after the last major. So I feel like
it goes
strongest region first, isn't it?
Strongest region first. So if they have 2 Europeans and 2 Americans and a South African, they're going to be EU.
Yeah. Yeah. So then the Passion UA now would be considered a European. Well, they always were European, but with Grim and
the complexity.
Yes.
Players,
Yes. Anyway, that's a bit silly, but yeah. So M80 as of right now are in contention for the major, which is essentially what the goal is off the back of this. Now, there's going to be a whole, like I don't know if you guys saw what Heku tweeted. There was like 20 local smaller lands or whatever that are going to be going on before that cutoff of October 6th, which is where a lot of these teams
crazy.
on the bubble are going to try and farm these points. And we knew this was going to happen. It was something that we discussed, and I definitely discussed with the HLTV guys, especially in places like China and Mongolia because, yeah. And that's, look, I think it sucks for Australia/Oceania. They don't have the same infrastructure to do it. And I don't know how they get that infrastructure.
They don't have a fucking LAN cafe with 10 PCs because that's how it feels like. It's
there needs to be, but the thing is, the countries, like I understand Mongolia and China are also really, really big places, but I think China has a better infrastructure to get around, to be completely honest. Australia, for these guys to travel, it's a lot of money for return flights, say from Perth or Adelaide or something like that to Brisbane, which is where the main stuff is being played from on land these days, as far as I understand. It used to be more Sydney and Melbourne based back in my day, but even still, I remember when I was a kid, it used to cost me $400 or $500 Australian dollars return as a kid who had like just some shit job. It wasn't easy to get that much money to do a return flight for an event that I would never go and win or have very light chance. And then you think about you have to get prize money for these events too, because there needs to be some prize money in there. So I think that, it's tough for the Australian scene at the moment, and they're realizing, oh shit, look at all of these other regions gearing up. I don't know how you solve this problem, because on the flip side, I think it's a positive thing that we're getting smaller LAN events which have gravitas to them being run around the world. I think that's a good thing. I think that's going to help the North American scene, for example.
I mean, I can't really necessarily. It feels, I can't speak to it, but it feels very much like a lot of these events are just popping up to try and get some extra points to a team right before the major cutoff.
Of course, yeah.
So like there is a positive nature to it, but I would prefer they actually invest in having a tournament as part of the circuit in general, and not just popping one up to try and feed some points to a team. You know what I mean? Like. That part doesn't feel like a positive addition. If we're just gonna start this tradition and this trend of right before the cutoff, we're going to announce 5 late, really small regional tournaments that teams can try and scrape to get some quick money, some quick VRS points.
Well, I mean, the rules. It's nothing's illegal.
I know it's not illegal. I'm not saying anyone's doing anything wrong.
No,
it
you
just
don't like
feels
it, but
wrong.
Again, this was to be expected. Not this exactly, but things like this to pop up in the first year of the VRS, right? Just with how much it means to the teams, right? And I think that's something that TOs will have to keep a closer eye on when they schedule their events, right? Because you look at it as an event as big as Pro League, right? With the amount of teams and everything, and the prize money and the LAN playoffs. We want it to be in the big arena like the Spodek. And if it's in the middle of the invite, right, and it's not going to count, well, then how incentivized are you going to be to schedule it? And if you just schedule it a week before, right, you get a lot more eyes on it, because all of a sudden it has huge impact on the VRS too.
It's almost like it catches
counts.
some of that.
Not even for the 6 teams that are in the playoffs or 8 teams or whatever, just for the teams that already played in the tournament. Now the tournament is over, their points will count.
That's something that when I was talking to Jackson, the product guy, just for people playing at home, to do with EPL, saying that during the show, when we're doing EPL in a couple of weeks' time, is saying that we should be doing checkups on, and this is where we might need to get it like Graham Messioso pit, like call in, once every couple of days to say, how are these local lands going? How's this impacted? How does this impact matches for EPL that we're watching right now? Will it have any big ramifications? Because stage 1 ending before the start of stage 2, stage 1 matches will count, stage 2 matches and playoffs won't count, right, to the cutoff. So you look at the teams who are attending. We've got like teams who don't need to benefit from these points, like a Furia or a 3D Max or a Astralis or a G2, even a LinVision, I think Heroic are probably safe. Gamer Legion are starting to get on the bubble. VP, fucking tanking. Legacy, don't need it. But teams like Bait, M80, TNL, NRG, Fluxo, Hotu, Rooster, crazy wins on LAN. I don't know how much it's going to do because I'm not one of these fucking spreadsheet Andys. Shout out, I love the spreadsheet Andys. They're doing all the hard work for us. But yeah, like there are going to be some big ramifications, and with the 20 smaller events that are going on, plus this one at the same time. We've got Fisher coming up as well. There's like still a lot that could change over the next, 3.5, 4 weeks. So yeah, this is where the holistic approach to the Counter-Strike space is really important, because a lot of people just seem to focus on the tier one and they're just looking at, oh yeah, well, Blast just happened. Blast tends to have the best teams. But when a team like M80 does make this type of a run, that's where this conversation creeps back in, and you start talking about, because we all know this, like if people, that you got your marquee, you got your big events, right? You've got your Katowices, your Colognes, you've got your majors. I think, it was unfortunate. Blast used to have a big one with their Copenhagen event. That's kind of fizzled out a bit now. Most of their events haven't lived up to that
the
type
same
of
sense of scale. Yeah,
exactly. So it's tough to like consider any of those in that same ballpark. But like if Astana, for example, for PGL starts to grow out a bit more, that could be like their marquee event to join that conversation, because Astana is a very big market and they're servicing that. So outside of that, there's a whole circuit that's going on where we're going to essentially determine who our major teams are going to be on the lower echelons, our stage one teams, right? So it's hard to keep track of it all. And this season, I'll be honest, I still feel like we've just come out of the break. We definitely haven't, but I still feel like we've just come out of the break. Like I'm watching so much CS at the moment. I'm like, oh yeah, we're just getting started. Something feels a little bit. I think it's this ambiguity around Spirit, bro. That's just it's fucking with my head. It's fucking with my head big time, because I've started like asking myself, like, remember, I'm in my apartment alone. I've been here for like 9 days, 10 days now, just me.
Just
I've
writing on the walls, going fucking crazy.
I've gone outside about 5 times. One reason for that is I didn't want to get anybody else sick. And the other is like I've just been like full Counter-Strike watching mode all day. And I'm starting to go, but maybe we keep Zontix now. Maybe we get rid of Zwei. He's been performing really badly. Do we keep Zontix? Do we put Zontix in Zwei's roles? I know it's not his roles, but like I trust Zontix. I think Zontix has a really good macro understanding. He's the type of player who's going to get 2 when you need him to get 2. Do you keep him? Do you bring Tanier in? Do you keep Zontix now? And I'm just freaking out, guys. Are we keeping Zontix? Is Zwei there? Is Tanier ever coming? Was it ever real?
Bro, they look like they were just fucking beat before they ended the server the other day.
I heard, and this isn't this. I know Overdrive said something, because someone made one of those fucking images with Overdrive's face and said Overdrive says this. But I heard this before. I heard this during EWC when I was talking to some different people there. This is another one of those things where I'm not going to say who my source is or any of that stuff, but I heard that there might be issues with Spirit getting visas for London. And I don't think it's all players, but maybe some players. So they might not have even been able to attend the main event even if they qualified. At least not with their full roster.
Yeah, which is where I also imagine is why the 10-year change didn't happen, because he was unable to secure his visa, right? So they were like, well, no point in doing this now. If he's not going to be able to play the LAN finals, might as well do one more tournament, just one more tournament, guys, and then we'll...
One last dance.
Then we'll
I feel so bad for Zontix, bro. Like, people think I'm a massive Zontix hater because he had that Katowice or whatever where he was struggling in the clutch, or maybe it was the major, maybe it was the Copenhagen major on Vertigo or whatever it was.
It was major.
Yeah. And like people were like, oh, like SPUNJ is bullying this kid. It's like, bro, the kid in all the interviews said he feels no pressure, and then he's clearly feeling pressure in these moments, right? Like, it would be disingenuous of me not to address
also,
this.
I'm actually just going to take him at face value, and now no mistake he makes is due to the pressure. It's now just due to him making mistakes.
Right. So, but the thing is, I know a lot of people have a hard time with Zontix because of the type of interviews he gives and stuff. I think he's a good kid. I think he's just.
I do too.
I think he's just an introvert, right? And he keeps to himself. And unless you actually want to have a proper conversation with Zontix isn't going to give you the time of day, because he's like, well, I'm not going to fucking waste my energy on that.
Doesn't like small talk.
He focuses on the Counter-Strike, and that's it, right? And he is, in my mind, one of those players that is a good teammate, because he'll do anything for the team. Like, he's not the most flashy in terms of his headshot percentage. Like, he's a body shot merchant, right? That's what people say about him. But he plays team Counter-Strike, and I respect play. It's like I understand Jacob's kind of fucked himself with stealing money and all that kind of stuff. But Jacob...
But up until that point, Jacob was a stand-up guy.
But
Up until that point.
in Counter-Strike, Jacob is a player's player, right? Rain's a player's player. I think Zontix feels into that same category. And I hate to critique Zwei so early because he did just make the shift and he's playing off position, right? They didn't use him the same way as what he was being used in Namiga in all of these spots. It just, the stats, like, at least for me, start to get a case going, especially with the wins that they got with Cologne and Bounty as well. It's like I could make a case that I keep Zontix and I just put Zwei in the academy team until he's ready.
But the question I think that you'd have to ask, because this is a perspective I'd take when I think about it, is look at how much is fucking changing in this team and obviously up in the air and just hanging over their head. Like, how is anyone supposed to perform well when you know this change is happening? This guy's going to play an extra couple of events. Oh, we're going to add one more onto it. Oh, there's passport issues. We don't know if everyone can get to London. We don't know if this guy is still going to be on the team. We have to have him come back. This guy's start is going to be delayed. Are we practicing with the new lineup that we're going to have? Or are we practicing with the lineup for the event? Chopper trying to change things, trying to make things better. Holly trying to do the same thing, but obviously not knowing when the new pieces are going to be coming in and what piece you're actually game planning for. So I have to imagine in the Spirit camp, there's just natural disorganization from how this transition has just been. Without information, I can't say mismanaged, but at least managed to a point where it's not allowing anyone to focus on the actual task at hand.
It just feels weird, though, right? Like, because Striker was hearing rumors about this Tanier thing during the break anyway, that it could have been like a two-player change, right? And then that two-player change didn't happen. Maybe that was, negotiations with Heroic. I don't know. But Striker was already hearing things about Tanier to Spirit before they were like publicly vetted rumors, right? Or at least they were quote-unquote reports. Because when did the first report about Tanier going to... Because we've had 2 events now that we've been like, it's the last event for Tanier in the Heroic jersey. Right, or it's the last event
Cologne,
for Zontix
right?
in the Spirit jersey.
It was supposed to be Cologne was supposed to be Zontix's last event with them, I thought.
And then now he's played 2 more events since.
Yeah.
So like it just builds back into what you were saying, that nature of everything is unsettled, and that's why for me it feels weird because people would say of this season so far, Spirit's been the best team, but they've been the best team with a roster they don't even want. So what? Like, what do we even have to take away from that?
That is the most annoying part to me, man, is like the fact that they went on to win Cologne and Bounty, right? So they go on and win 2 tournaments while being, right, that team walking, so to speak, like awaiting another roster change. And then you're just like, it just makes the job so difficult, right?
Yeah.
When you're trying to put things into context and talk about all these different things. And then in both of those tournaments, they didn't have to play Vitality, but Vitality didn't even make the final because they lost to the Mongols and Maus that Spirit ends up beating, right? So it's like all these things where it's how does it all make sense? And then after all of that, they go to the EWC and lose to Heroic in a battle, right? Like the player's sick, notwithstanding, but still, like what the hell, And it just kind of sucks from that perspective, but. Yeah, it's hard to... I think, maybe they were just thinking, listen, if we change another player after winning Cologne and Bounty, I mean, we'll look like crazy people if this doesn't work out. But if we suck at the next 2 tournaments
so if we intentionally
lose to, like some other teams, then it will look like, all right, they do need one more roster change.
Does it feel...
Yeah, go, Jason.
I was gonna say, does it feel to any of you like these roster, like this idea within Spirit of making some of these changes has just been building for longer than we've known about? Like they kept it under wraps pretty damn well. And it feels disorganized because it's all popping off right now when everyone's finally hit the wall.
I know that they do have visa issues. Do you mean everybody from the team or the other teams?
Yeah, well, I mean, it feels like, you remember, like the conversation was all like, we want these guys. People don't know what they're talking about. These guys are too valuable. Magix gets changed. Zontix gets changed just later on. Like, that announcement comes in very, very quickly. Like, it feels like they got to that decision fast.
I think
it does feel drastic. But we wanted a roster change after the major last year anyway.
It just feels like this had probably been a conversation in the team to me for a while.
Mm.
And it's just kind of is all popping off like recently. I don't know.
I think
just feels sudden.
I mean, some of the rumors have been that for Zontix, it's like travel with passport visa. That like there's trouble with him obtaining some of that stuff, and whether he'll be able to go to tournaments. Obviously, if you have that hanging over your head, I mean, you have to change that player.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's no point in just using stand-ins multiple times, right? If that's the case. And that makes a little bit more sense to me than if it is simply Counter-Strike related. right? Because first of all, changing 2 players, right, is a big feat. Even though you're not changing your in-game leader or opera or star player, still like those 2 guys, and it's 2 guys who don't have really tier 1 experience. That Tanir a little bit more than Zwei, but not too much. And you have Zontix, who's, like Chad said, has good understanding of the macro, is proven, that in terms of has the experience playing on stage. He won the bloody major with them. They won Katowice together. Like, these are the biggest tournaments that we have in our circuit. So you're not changing a player like that lightly. I mean,
Sure.
unless it's such a clear and obvious upgrade, and you feel like that the thing that you're missing the most right now is firepower or performance from him, right? So we talked about this before too. It's a much riskier move from Spirits to change Zontix for Tanir on top of bringing in Zwei for Magix. Like,
just this question, just because I've honestly been thinking about this a lot. Do you guys think, because Zwei's playing off position in some of his spots, right?
Yeah.
And he has to be more supportive. If you just had to pick between Zwei, who hasn't shown that he can compete at the biggest events yet, right? He hasn't in those spots, which are tough spots, right? I'm not just reading into stats, but he's had some really hard goes of things like especially Mirage on A, for example. Do you think that Zontix could do a better job playing off position than Zwei can do a better job playing off position? That's what it comes down to for me. That's the only question.
Yes, but I
Right
would say,
now.
yes, but I feel like I have a better body of work that I've seen from Zontix. Zwei I haven't seen enough of from his time in Namiga to now, but certainly at this moment, to answer your question, yes, I do.
But that's the thing, because you're making another change, and Tanir is going to require more space, right? And I think that's kind of the reason they're picking up Tanir, is because they want someone who's going to be better late round and maybe a bit more assertive and can take them over. Like, I still think Zontix is very good in the clutch. I think that he's like can get them the multi-kills when required. But I also think that skill set can be used in these anchor positions. Right, like Mirage A anchor is not an easy spot. You either play it like a bitch and you just jump spot ticket the whole time, delay, and then try and set your teammates up as you come back through.
The difficulty is knowing you're going to play it like a bitch for 12 rounds in a row.
Right, and that's the thing. Like, I think Zwei kind of feels like as long as I don't die, right, Donk and Shiro will kill them. But like you have to, the whole thing that was exciting about Zwei was, he's going to come in. He looked more assertive in his positions in Namiga. Like, he's happy to set the tone and take some fights. And whether or not they don't want him to play that way, or whether or not he's scared to play that way, because also he's a young man, right? People got to remember these are like 17, 18-year-old kids, and it's not everybody adapts to that immediately.
I think that's the issue too. Is like, it's not just the stress of having to change positions and everything. It's like you went from Namiga that no one really watched, no one cared all that much about, a smaller team. You're going to Spirit, right? Like one of the biggest organizations in the world right now.
The best player in the world.
With the Spirits, their success in Dota 2, right? Winning multiple TIs, I believe. I don't think I'm wrong on that.
I think they won multiple, didn't they?
Yeah.
They did have the one where Magnus with the hook. Was it Magnus?
Yeah, Magnus.
Not the hook, the
skewer.
This one.
The skewer.
He was doing that.
Yeah. Great.
Do you guys
great
know
Magnus
that?
impersonation. Yeah. But and they've had success in Counter Strike, and then you're going into that.
What's wrong with me?
No, you're good. You're fine. You've just been inside for way too long without having contact with other humans outside of talking on podcasts, which you absolutely hate doing. But yeah, I think that's also the issue, right? So you have all the spotlight on, you're doing vlogs, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're playing off position. You went from just trying to qualify for tournaments to now you're supposed to help the team win tournaments. Everything other than placing first is a disappointment in that team, in that organization, right? And that's a lot of pressure to deal with. And you have guys who can come into it and just dick out and fucking, I love this. This is what I was born to do, and they just sort of embrace that. And you have guys who are, maybe a little bit more introverted, shy, and then it takes them a while, if they even can, to get adjusted to it and sort of learn how to deal with that and then get through the rough early patch and sort of be able to focus on the Counter-Strike ultimately, right? Which is where the coaching staff and the performance coaches will put the most emphasis on and tell the player not to worry about all this other stuff. Just focus on doing your job, executing your role, and everything else will sort itself out, right? But not everyone is able to handle it. Absolutely, I give him more time before you make a judgment. Like definitely until the end of the season, foreseeing some of these things. Jason, you have another package incoming.
I think I have an exterminator here to take care of a bee's nest. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. Right. Bee's nest. Is that how we segue into a vitality conversation, Yanka?
That would have been easy, but they're hornets, Chad. They're not bees.
Yeah, okay. Well, they are vital for life, though, so, you know.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't watch too much of the CS, but I did catch a decent amount of the FaZe Vitality game. And
that was a fun game.
It was fun game. It was entertaining to watch. The Brokey and the Frozen were very entertaining. But I knew it was immediately going to get overblown. Right, even with the FaZe lost, like because it was so good and everything. Then you see the pistols and see everything. It's like, well, it's because of this that the games were close, and also putting it into context what this tournament where it's at for Vitality and how much it means for FaZe. On the other hand, with the first tournament with Jacob, like once you put all that into, it's like it makes sense that it would go. Like, if anything, FaZe needed to win that game more than anything else. It was a seeding game. Like, on top of everything that we talk, even for these games on LAN, we were a little bit like, well, I mean, it's not a huge deal, right? You're not going to take too much away from it.
Yeah, I think those seeding games present weird circumstances, especially with the scenario that we're in right now, right? You're bang on. That win means more to FaZe than it does to Vitality. However, Vitality are trying to recover, so they want to get their confidence back with a victory there, and they shouldn't be losing to a FaZe who have just had a Jacob either. So... Yeah. I think that there's multiple things in play there, but this is something else with the Vitality crew. For them, going from winning 7 trophies in a row and lifting them all the time and being on LAN in that high intensity, and then rolling back to then now having to play 2 online events in the span of a month or maybe a little bit more. Yeah. That's kind of a tough adjustment for them. And like that's just the way it goes. Like as far as a work condition goes, it's not like you're being put out there in 40-degree heat having to fucking dig holes or anything crazy, but it's still it's not where you know that you can perform at your best. So this event right now is recovery for Vitality, and it's especially more so an event where now eyes are on them to win and recover their poor start of the season because Spirit's not there. Right, so Spirit bombed out. The Mongols aren't there. They chose not to attend. Aurora are not there, who are the finalists of the last Tier 1 event, if you guys are unfamiliar. Right? It's important to mention them, Jason. Make sure you mention Aurora. We'll get to them later.
They're pretty good.
Missing some of the Maus, right? Maus are there. They're the only other team who in recent history have been like a contender against Vitality. And no one's really been a contender against Vitality, right? So... I look at the bracket right now, which is Maus M80 into Vitality. So that's probably Maus into Vitality, which is an exciting game to have as a semi.
Yeah, that's a really
On the
cool
lower
semi.
half of the bracket, FaZe versus G2, that is going to be one of the most fun series. Whoever gets to cast that game, whether it's Harry and Hugo or Scrawny and Lauders, that is probably going to be the best game of the whole fuck. Actually, no. There's going to be a lot of good games because Furia is also there. I think Furia is so much fun to watch.
Yes, they are.
I really like watching G2. FaZe showed that they can still have that like explosive nature. And that's how I want... This is the thing I think people need to think about with FaZe. I never want FaZe to become a system team until Carrigan retires and becomes the coach. And then his system that he can build however he wants it to be. I want this to be the team that we watched in their games in the groups of London. Like it's like chaotic Counter-Strike. It's all over the place. It's multi-kills. Because when they try and play system-based, Frozen looks like a beta. When they play chaotic-based, Frozen doesn't look like a beta. He looks like that perfect piece there at the right time, mopping up 3 kills. And that's where I think like it's a fine line for a player like Frozen, right? And I think that this is why this style suits them more than the one that they were trying to emulate when they had a Liege there.
I think stylistically, having a little bit more chaotic Counter-Strike also makes Brokey feel a lot more comfortable. He's always been an AWPer that I'm just like, he thrives in chaos, and he was spanking people in this event.
It's not replicable, though, is it? That's the problem with this style. Like, it's going to work and it's not going to work. And that's where you're going to get the clear contrast. Like, FaZe are either going to be everyone's going ape shit or they're not. Like, you can't hit that perfect equilibrium of this chaotic style every game.
That's why they never had necessarily an era or anything, because they could peak, but they could also not show up, right? And I think you'd prefer it that way. Did we lose Jason?
I don't know. He's not moving. It could be cataclysmic, but we'll see what happens here.
Hopefully not. But
I'll send him a message.
Yeah,
Is he back? No.
He moved a little bit, but it's,
okay.
Oh,
I'm in and out. My internet just lagged a little bit. I was gone for about a minute, but yeah, I'm just waving. Right. Here I am. What's up, guys?
cool. Yeah.
Hi, Jason.
Hey. I got fucking bees nests in the fucking walls. I got internet dropping out. This shit's
Your
popping off.
packages incoming. Like, it's a busy day over there at the O'Toole household. But yeah, I think you'd take that if you face the inconsistency, but with at least sometimes being able to make a run over what they had, which was just misery for a prolonged period of time. But I saw something that you said, because you talked about FaZe playing with structure and everything, and you made the point about if Falcons don't win a tournament by the end of the year, you wanted to bring over Ash. Why do you think like that would work?
Because I think that what needs to happen is a little bit of the stick needs to come out in the Falcons camp, because they have such talented players, but they all want to play the game their own way. I think they just need to have somebody tell them, no, this is the way that you are going to play the game, and you're so talented that we'll make sure that we put you in the positions where we can get the most out of you, but I don't want you to be fucking ego calling these rounds. I think that that's the problem. There's so much conviction with these players all the time that they think they can all just win the rounds on their own. And I don't think Zonic tells them off enough. I don't think he wrangles them enough, right? Like, when he was coaching Astralis, that's perfection. And I'm not taking away from his contributions. I think his contributions to Astralis being the greatest team of all time in my mind are huge. I just think in the modern game, with what he has pieced together right now, I don't think he is using them the way that they should be used. I think that they're trying to play a version of the Counter-Strike where the in-game leader doesn't have that much control. That's why I think Kixon won't be there in the next 6 to 12 months.
What makes you say that?
Why would I say that?
Yeah.
Well, I think that like, this is just what I think they should do. Right? Like, this roster right now can win, but I don't think that Kixon gets to call the game that he probably wants to call with the players he has in the team. So if I'm Kixon, I probably want to go somewhere else as well. Like, sure, I have these superstars around me, but I'm not able to call. And I think Kixon did his best calling when he was able to call the type of game he wanted to call, which was, back in the previous two rosters he was a part of, Heroic and Apex.
Isn't there always an argument to be made if you have like a team that has this many kind of like star players in it, you don't want to call like a hardcore IGL system. You want to let the stars kind of thrive and play their own game to a certain extent, and you kind of want to manage their ideas rather than
I think that the players, yes, I agree, but I think Apex manages their ideas, and when they say something, he's like, no, we're doing this. I think Apex daddy dicks the Vitality guys, even though he has a ROPS.
Also, those guys don't ask for as much as maybe other players do.
Which ones? The guys on Vitality?
The guys on Vitality, yeah.
Well, I think like they might not ask for as much, but they definitely you have players who take up a lot of space and do a lot of things, right? They just have like their team is built like perfectly with the pieces, right? Especially in modern meta. I know it hasn't looked that way result-wise, but I think that Falcons need a stylistic change. And here's the thing. Falcons are going to fall into the same issue. Even if this team does find success with the players they have now, a lot of them are still young and they're going to have, long careers ahead of them, especially Monacy and Kyosuke. But if I'm Falcons, I want to future-proof. I have these stars right now. I think a coach like Ash is future-proofing, right? I think that it's making sure that when you do go through changes, that you're able to bring in these players who are scouted well and make sense and not just going to spend lots of money on a big name.
I agree with.
I don't think that you have the luxury if you're Falcons to go for any piece. Well, okay, I was saying this just as they got Kyosuke, but someone who is unproven, right? Ash is unproven at leading a tier 1 team or any team that's sort of not an underdog.
That's fair. I still think he's the best prospect out there for them to get as a coach.
It's a completely different brand, not completely, but it's significantly different. The Counter-Strike that you play as an underdog team with young players, right? Like trying to break through and trying to just get some results going, getting into the next stage of the major.
Yeah, but Gamer Legion aren't gimmicky, bro. Like, Gamer Legion don't play gimmick Counter-Strike. I don't look at them and go, oh, Ash is just calling like pace changes and like pocket strat rounds and winning games because of that. They have strong fundamental bases on a lot of these maps that they play. He gets more out of a player like Torsen than anybody else in the world would. Imagine him with better players. You're putting them in the right places. Saying, no, Nico, this is not the position you'll be playing. You'll be playing here. No, Kyosuke, this is not the position you'll be playing. You'll be playing here. Like,
no, you guys won't be playing Inferno. You'll be playing something else.
Right? Probably, right? This is the thing, though, right? There's some things that, look, Saw is the same example. I think Saw for me is just a more progressed version of Ash, right? Like, because Saw's pieces that he's had have always been, but Saw actually quite the opposite with the snappy-led teams. They were a bit more gimmicky, definitely pacey. They were definitely a faster-paced team, very in your face. And I think he now has a better quality of player than he did during that Ents roster on the G2 team. The only question mark is obviously Sampaius, who I'm seeing some things I like from and some things that I don't. But I think when you look at the other 4 players on that team, like Saw right now has an awesome team, and you look at the way that they approach the game, there's an idea in every round. It's not just fucking do whatever the fuck you want. Every idea feels connected, and then when the chaos happens, the players are in a position to make a play. Heavy Gold gets a triple kill. Hunter wins a 1v4. Mattis gets a quick double headshot. Like, Malbs does the same. Right? I think that the future of Counter-Strike is having these strong coaches who understand the game at a very good level and are putting the pieces in the positions, right? And setting up the gameplay. I don't want to go into practice and have my players fucking determining in theory. It's great to bring ideas. I want you to bring ideas. I want you to have moves from your pugs. I want you to bring all those things. But you're not the ones who should be coming up with the overall strategy. That should be the coach, in my opinion. I think that's the way that the coaches should function in the future.
I mean, that's the way coaches, in theory, should have functioned this whole time. But it's been a process of a new industry kind of getting to that point where they can have that control over the players, right? Players have always kind of had that sort of significant control, and it varies from team to team. I think last episode we were talking about Liquid being one of the last orgs that lets the players dictate a lot in terms of the decision making of where that team is going, and that's moving on. So I'm with you. I think the coaches are going to start taking over more and more, especially the ones that actually show they're capable of it. Ash has to still prove that, but I wouldn't lay some of those struggles on Falcons on Zonic's feet. I don't like sometimes it just comes down to like, dude, I think like players have to internalize a lot of that decision making and a lot of that kind of philosophy of the kind of decisions they're going to make into the game. I was never a star player, but I was always a supportive element, and eventually you just like kind of second nature becomes your move is shifting in behind what the star player is going to do without any level of communication, right? You know exactly what he wants. And this is always the other side of the coin to having teams where you bring in a lot of stars is their first move by instinct and by nature is to go for the winning play, even if it is a risk. Right? And I think that's a hard thing to train out of. And I don't lay that at Zonic's feet. I lay that at the players not recognizing that somebody's first thought is going to have to shift. Somebody's intuitive nature is not going to have to be the guy in that moment.
But my angle here is, right, let's say that you make more roster changes, which, like, if they don't win the major, which is what the pursuit of all this is, right? Do they make more roster changes? Like, they clearly don't give much time to their rosters, right?
I think it depends on how their season goes. Like as a whole, and how do they mesh by that point? You know, like you can lose a major and be a very good team, right? Or you can win a major by, you know, things just working out for you in that one tournament.
Yeah.
You know, kind of. So I think that they won't look as just that. Obviously, they'll have to do better, much better than they did at the last major. But I think they'll look at other tournaments too if they're seeing signs. I mean, they managed to beat Vitality. Yes, third place decider, not really meaning all that much, but you know they're gonna take that away after the performance they had in Cologne and be very happy about that. I think Fisher is going to be very telling for them, right? Because there's some good teams there. They would have had time to practice. Is the Exterminator again, Jason? They're coming now for the Walruses. I don't know.
Now this might be the guy to resurface the driveway he was getting in.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a lot bigger than that, I guess. I mean, I agree with you, Chad, on the sense of how it should look like. I just don't necessarily think, like, Saw is a perfect example. Like, if you would be able to get him, then yeah, obviously he's in G2 now, and you can't do that. But just whether Ash is the guy for that, I'm not so convinced just yet. And Falcons in general are a weird one to talk about because they looked at their best in Melbourne and at Rival Season 1 when they had almost no practice with Bonacy, right? And they actually played good Counter-Strike. I don't know if you agree, but that's the best Counter-Strike that they played were at those two tournaments.
It's gotten worse since.
It was all right at Dallas and then the major and it was bad, and it was worse since, albeit with another roster change. But
no, I agree. But this is the thing. It's like, with this org, I've never really gotten behind the idea that the community sentiment of they spend so much money so they have to win now. But really, when we're at EWC and, you know, they're talking about, well, we need our team to win and this is the team that we spend the most money on, right? That you heard that from the fucking CEO of Falcons. That's what he said. This is the team we spend the most money on. Then the expectation is there. And when you have so many skilled players in the team, if you're not finding the output, at what point does that actually fall to Zonic? Because I'm not a Zonic hater. I'm not one of these guys who comes out and is like, Zonic's a fraud, anything like that. But there has to be a change at some point that will enact change, right? And if you continue to get all these really good players, right, your best results was when you had, well, I guess it's when Modesty first came in, because it was the final against Vitality. It's the most competitive final against Vitality that we've had. But their only trophy came when Dexter was in the team. And I'm not sitting here saying, oh, yeah, like Dexter's better than Modesty. Like, I'm not crazy. But, you know, that it's just hard to justify the lack of results for an organization that is spending so much money on this. And how long is the game plan? How long do they... Because they've shown that they have no issue changing the roster if it's available. They're clearly happy to do that. Like, they're clearly happy to spend on these pieces.
I would wonder if that, I mean, coming into this a little bit late, but I would wonder if that idea of showing that you're willing to spend on pieces was more getting to this point where they have the pieces they want and now they can be a little bit smarter about money, right? Because their last lineup didn't work whatsoever, right? Like, they had to blow it up. So I wonder now, if you're in this position where you have Nico, you have Modesty, you have Kiyosuke, if now from here on these last two positions that you might swap out as time goes on are going to be more reasonable, more, you know, a little bit more intelligence to them rather than let's just go spend money on the biggest name for this role.
Well, look, they're in a better season than last year for sure.
Yeah, easily, fucking easily. Holy hell!
There's no doubt about that.
Are you worried about the Modesty drop off? Did you guys touch on that at all?
No, I also think that it's like, this is the problem, right? I'll give them some rope here, but I think that with the short amount of time that we've had these players in this complexion, it's a very short amount of time. It's the same thing with the Spirit one, right? But Spirit are in a position where they're apparently bringing a player in and they already have a player, whereas like Falcons aren't in that position currently, right? So that's why for Spirit, I'd be like, oh, you could consider getting rid of Zwei and keeping Zontics. With Falcons right now, none of that is available. So it's just, we'll see how long this takes until they either get the result they're looking for or they don't. And the result that they're looking for is to be the best Counter-Strike team in the world. So what's the timeline on that? And how aggressive are you going to be with changes? Let's say a good in-game leader becomes available. Do you take that risk? And what type of in-game leader would come available for you to take that risk? Do you upgrade? Let's say that Bit's like, nah, fuck Na'Vi. Na'Vi is shit. I don't want to be here anymore. And he puts his hand up, hey, can you buy me, please? Can you please buy me? Like, I want to go play with Modesty and stuff. Like, you know, there's so much on the table for these guys. They're not even playing at this fucking London event. But that's because of visas, apparently. But yeah, it's for Falcons, like the Belgrade event is a huge... I think it's hugely important for them at Fisher, obviously because Nico gets to play at home. Or is that bad that I said that, Yanko? Are people going to be upset that I said that?
No.
Oh, you've done it now. Only one group can take out the Turks in this regard. And it's...
Yeah, I just had... Well, no, the Brazilians are also pretty good. The Brazilians are pretty good. Yeah, it's an important event to see the progress of this team, for sure. I'm hoping that even the Vitality win in that third place decider is a confidence booster.
We talked about that at the time because I remember like that was kind of one of those weird games where third, fourth place decider, schedule been changed early morning, teams had little sleep, Vitality was sick. So like it felt like, at least watching it, like it wasn't the greatest Counter-Strike. There wasn't that much energy being put into it. But when it got done, Modesty comes out and says that was the best game they've ever played as a team.
Yeah.
So it's like
this lineup.
On this lineup. But like, so in some sense, we're laughing because it's like it doesn't really matter what it felt like from the outside. It matters what Falcons is taking away
exactly.
from it. You know, so if that is the moment they latch onto, however much bullshit is attributed in there, you know, with that kind of a win regardless, they see that as a huge step forward.
Yeah. Yeah, and that, at the end of the day, could have the flow-on effects that see them play better CS, you know? So do we want to cap off this London conversation? Because, like... they don't start till Friday. It's fucking Wednesday today.
Yeah.
For me, right, if we were just to round this out, there's a lot of names there that I'm excited to see the Mouse versus Vitality again. I think it's a good experience for MA to be on a stage. I'm hoping to see FaZe with Jacob trying to play the same exciting Counter-Strike versus G2, who are very firepower dependent with the way that they're having these crazy mid-round swings. Furia are fun too. So overall fun event, but at the end of the day, the biggest storyline for me is can Vitality recover the poor start to the season? Somebody else can definitely win, and that we just have another name in the conversation for trophies in 2025.
And Mongols just showed Vitality they could beat them twice in a row. Can Mouse do the same thing? can you actually kind of really turn that around? You know, it's all well and good. You beat them once. Can you beat them twice now?
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that one because that will be very telling, similar to the Mongol storyline. And I think also that side of the bracket, FaZe G2 Fury. I mean, one of those teams will have to be in the grand final, and whoever it is, it's going to be super exciting, right? Like
Fury is my front runner. If I was to put that side of the bracket in order, it would go Fury, then G2, then FaZe.
It feels like if it's not them, it would be because they choke again and fuck it up or whatever, right? Like because it feels like it's time for them to make that leap.
Yeah, I'd love to see Fury there. I really like having Fury and G2 be good, though, because it feels like two teams that maybe aren't necessarily ready to grab the trophy, but they're playing really well. They're really fun to watch play, which is, I think, always a good thing to have deep into a tournament bracket.
Furia with this roster have never played against Vitality.
Okay.
All right. Interesting.
All right, a testing ground.
Yeah, so that's kind of fun.
The big leagues.
The
Vitality.
Bro, how good does fucking... I know Fallen, like, if you look at the numbers, it's like, oh, it's just pedestrian. Well, actually, no, it's on the upper scale for in-game leaders.
Bro, I think it's incredible.
I fucking love watching Fallen on the rifle hitting some absolute bangers, mate. It is so sick to see on the... Like, I have... Look, AWPing, I was never an AWPer. I have an appreciation for really flashy and sick AWPers like Fallen was in his prime. But like in the modern game, watching Fallen get it done with the rifle against some of these Zoomer kids, it's so cool to watch, man. I fucking love it.
Yeah, it's great. There's not many people that I can root on having that success. I like seeing Fallen. He's still winning. I want him to get one last big win in his career. I want him to have one last big win.
I think this extends it, Jason. If he keeps playing like this, for me, I was like,
oh, for sure,
probably going to retire end of the year, mate. Just keep going, mate. But like, you're on the next chapter.
Come on, if you win the second major of the year, don't you just
you quit?
Don't you just
go? Quit?
I'm done on top. Yep, I'm out. That's the one. Don't you?
Well, yeah, we had to, because based off the podcast we did with him, right? Like, if that would be a really nice way to leave it. But surely, Jason, you leave it all out there, mate. You leave it all out there.
You let it all ride.
You go until the game says it's done with you. It's been like 3 or 4 times we think Fallen's done. He's still fucking kicking, mate.
I know. That's what I'm saying. One last win. Go out like no one else has done it in Counter-Strike. No one gets to go out on top.
Yeah, but push the boundaries, Jason. Go to be the oldest in-game leader, winning trophies ever. Just keep pushing the boundaries.
Go out as a champion. Other people can push the boundaries. Let Carey can do that.
Let someone else do that. I think if that does happen, he retires. I think Jason's spot on because it is what he talked about. You know, Fallen's been in the forefront all this time, but I need to start putting some time away for Gabriel, you know, as well. So I think I think he would be doing a lot of convincing to himself that he should push the boundary, Chad. But I think after the initial emotions of that hypothetical win that we're talking so much about subside, he'd understand that, all right, like what better way to hang it up than with this.
Yeah, that's true. Like it'd be like 10 years apart since his last major win, right? So that would be, it would be pretty cool.
It's poetic, yeah.
Yeah, look, it's definitely a fun little angle. I'm just double checking that point I made about Fury versus Vitality to make sure I was right, because that feels like a very likely final at this event. So double checking.
I mean, it feels like it should be pretty good. Fury wasn't exactly lightening up through most of the year when
I think
Vitality was
think also this is a must-win event for Vitality at this point. Because in the semifinal they're playing Mouse, who they've bullied all year long, or MAT. Like, come on. And then in the grand final they have a best of 5 against Furia, FaZe, or G2, right? Like whichever of these teams gets there, especially in a best of 5, like Vitality should have them. You think
map pool wise, it'd be interesting against Furia because both of the teams ban Ancient, but I know that Furia have like flirted with a little bit of Ancient, right? Like we've seen them play it before, so they get to float. Well, they get to float it. Vitality have to hard ban it, and then you get to remove your next weakest map if you're Furia in that final. And they like the same maps as Vitality.
I mean,
what does it actually change about Vitality if they don't win, though? Like, I still have a hard time. I know it's like you say must win, and like it's weird. I kind of agree in some sense just because...
I think for their confidence.
I think they're failing the eye test and failing the confidence battle, as you're saying. But like, I still have a hard time being like writing off any team whose like failures are the semifinals.
True. Yeah,
you know
but
what I mean?
they got
like,
to semi by winning a seeding match, Jason. That means they didn't win a game in the playoff.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I guess that's a fair point.
Fuck,
Yeah.
everyone's getting up. Could I get up too? We could all get up. We'll do like a little intermission.
Welcome to fucking dad life. You always just got
Musical
shit going
chairs,
on.
bro.
At all times. There's always something happening. There's always something.
I got to. You can't really. Put
I
the genie
got
back in the
angry
bottle,
bees
can you?
by my front door now. I got just angry bees just flying around.
What did you do to make them angry?
I don't know. The guy sprayed him with some kind of chemical.
Oh, so they're angry now. I see.
They've nested
Okay.
inside the brick wall. So we don't really know where the nest is. So he sprayed this chemical that gets them angry, but it goes to the entire colony. So I'm just watching bees swarm up my window right now. It's kind of cool.
Well, a good thing you fixed that window.
Yeah, it is. A very good thing I fixed that window. Fuck's sake.
What
else? Are we doing?
you're not doing Fisher, are you?
No, not doing Fisher.
But Yanko is.
Yanko is.
Is he?
Yes, he is. As far as
Okay.
I know, I believe.
So we can do another episode next week before Fisher.
Before
I'm waiting
Fisher.
for my food. He's going to be here in a minute.
Okay, so it's food. It's not even a kid, mate.
It's
It's
not food.
different. Because Fisher
yeah.
starts on the 12th. Right now it's the 3rd.
Yep.
So 12th is next Friday.
Nah,
So
man,
we'll definitely do another episode.
I nailed my scheduling to close out the year. I think I really stuck
Nice.
the landing to make it as nice as possible for everyone involved.
Okay, that's nice of you.
I was
Okay,
very happy. I had a little celebratory day with that yesterday.
fair. Well, you should. Why not? I saw you at the beach.
Yeah, went up north, joined us to the UP, the Upers, for the little Labor Day holiday with the family. Loaded
Labor Day,
the
okay.
dogs and the baby up in the car and just went on a road trip.
Okay. Welcome. We were talking about next week when we do an episode before Fisher because
Yeah.
Jason's not gone, but I think you'll be there, right? So
Yeah.
yeah. So we
I'll
would
be
just have to do one
Sitting
maybe
in
the
for
10th.
Jason.
We
He's
don't have to
casting.
do one on the with Dinko. I heard.
Yeah, he's casting with Inkster.
Might have to do one on the 10th, right?
Oh, we looked
Because-
okay, yeah.
Because I'm not trying to lock it hard in. It's just like trying to work out. We could do it either Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, something like that. But just looking at the future, because like the Fisher event, I really want to talk about because Aurora is going to be there. So
Should we?
Of course.
Should we? I don't know if you guys got to it while I was at one of my little doorbell rings. The Virtus Pro benching electronic.
I'll get into that. I need to take a piss.
Yeah, let's
My
get
turn.
into
Go
that,
back.
and we'll kind of.
I'm gonna leave the door open, so hopefully the people at home can hear.
Oh,
Nice.
that's cool.
Yeah, I think
Um,
I've
yeah.
talked about this before, where it's like it does feel like the VP one with him IGLing was his last chance in Tier 1 Counter
Yep.
Strike, right? Like with
I'm with
how
you.
terribly wrong Cloud9 has gone, and then he comes into VP, and also how things unfolded. Like James, then slowly the long-standing members are being removed, right? And it's becoming his team, and then players are still in, coaches are getting removed, like everyone but him until now, obviously. So he had to make it work somehow, and it just feels like it's not there. And
Well,
I've
it
had
feels
people
like
say, "What
this-
about as just a sole player as a rifler?" And I think maybe not even that anymore, man.
Dude, I think first of all, when the issues that VP is having and struggling, and it's become so apparent that it's your personality and your attitude and your mentality inside the server, like that was the most apparent, attitude issue IGL in a team that we've seen in a long time, in my mind at least. So when that becomes the problem that you have within the team, it doesn't matter if you're a great rifler, like your value is no longer there, because no matter what, you're just gonna come in, and your attitude itself, not even your gameplay, not even your ideas inside the server, it's the attitude and the mentality that's going to be the cancer that destroys the team. And now on top of that, you outlined it as like the fucking track record of coming into a team and it blowing up immediately afterwards, of like not even going from we need to make a roster change, going from Electronic joins the team and then everyone wants the fuck out of this team. Like that track record now has been set by 2-3 lineups in a row, basically, with Electronic. So there's no value anymore. So I mean, I think he's cooked. I think he's going to have to do the same thing that Simple's doing, which is go back down to like a tier 2 team and rebuild back up. But I have no confidence in Electronic being able to do that. Where
Why
I think
not?
Simple.
No, I was
think,
no. I was gonna say, why not BC game?
Oh,
It's
sure.
simple.
Oh,
Just
my
reuniting.
God. I don't know, man. I think the problem is like when I see players have like what feels like an attitude break to this degree, where they just cannot keep it under control to any reasonable level. That to me like signals they need time away from the game.
It's not an attitude break, though, is it? That's the Navi culture that he was brought up in, alongside of like Zeus and Edward and fucking right Simple, and that's how Flamey.
That's even worse.
Right?
There's even less of changing that then, if that's where we want to go with it. You know, like then that's just
I'm
like
just
an actual
saying, like-
culture that you bring to a team, which is get it the fuck out of my team. I don't want it there.
Well, yeah, it doesn't really work in the modern day, does it? That's a relic,
Yeah.
right? That's something that worked once upon a time. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to see Electronic go anywhere from here because his last couple of campaigns have been failed campaigns, right? And yeah, the teams have exploded around them. So,
failures.
dude, I feel bad for Perfecto though. Well, not really, but in a
He's
way,
an IGL now.
he already had bad stats, so it kind of lines up. But imagine having an in-game lead as an anchor. That's not fun. Like that's not a fun thing to have to do. You don't even get to
Imagine-
see half of what's going on the map.
Imagine coming back into professional play after like a year away and having to pick up the game individually and get back up to par, and now also have to take on the mantle of an IGL and get up to par in the meta sense in a bigger scale than you ever imagined you'd have to at this point.
A part of me, like, this is not directed at this VP change. This is probably on a lot of teams, and obviously the super elite level teams, the upper echelon teams, are doing this all the time. But like the thing that I miss the most about competing is being part of a team, and then what that kind of means. Because sitting in a server with your team, going over things, talking about decisions of how we're going to take different swings, or the utility we're going to use, or the timing and all this stuff, like that's probably one of the most fun parts about Counter-Strike for me, is like theory, crafting, all that. And I just wonder, right, running theory as a coach or as an in-game leader or whatever, how much of that is actually being done in a day? Because this is some of the stuff that you two could probably talk to because your coaching experience. I would feel like if it was me and it was the modern game, I wouldn't play more than like 5 scrims in a day, right? I'd probably play like, and most of the time would be used on like theory. And then when we do scrim, we're going to work on the things that we just spoke about. And I wouldn't play more than 3 maps in a row. I'd have a break and do all those kind of things because you can, best of 5 is the longest game you can play, but most of the series you're going to play a best of 3s, right? So I think that players should be able to keep the focus for a best of 3. Just wonder, you know, where it is at with all these different teams. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in the prac rooms, or like with like, I just wish I had a deeper understanding of how teams were functioning in the modern game, right? Because I feel like the most fun part would be theory, but I don't. It's never, players never want to sit there and watch a demo or listen to someone telling them what fucking space.
Well,
they
you're
should
thinking
play. They
of
just
the
want a headshot.
nostalgic theory that from way back in the day where you didn't have all the tools, so you'd literally
I'm
would
still
just
even
sit
thinking
in
modern
the server.
theory. Modern theory is better.
I think a lot of it is just between the coach and IGL, but then you also have conversations as a team, or just when you're chilling sometime and talking about the game, and then you understand what you're missing in your game. For example, hey, we need to have rounds like this. You know, we need to have something if they're playing super passive as CT and giving us a ton of space, right? Like we need to be able to take that space faster, right? Because when they're saving nades, for example, and that's what we need. And through that, sort of you're coming up with, and then the details itself just depends who likes doing it to an extent. If no one likes doing it and are going to do it on their own, it's the coach's job to come up with those things. But and I agree with you when you're talking about structure. Like that's what I was doing, in the sense of we have to come to every practice knowing what we're going to do today, right? And preparing, and we don't need to add something every day, right? But what the focus is going to be today has to be, you know, we can't just come in and say, all right, let's go in, we're playing these guys, and you just come in. You can have a day where you're like just trying to win every game. Okay, we're just going to call as if we were in a game, call the scenarios and do that. But you need to have things, you need to, and I think that's where, for me personally, when I talk about structure and laying the foundation of the game, I think that's where it's the most important, because when you set things up properly, it's much easier to add new things, right? Because
Sure.
how you set up your game matters, that you're not just randomly having all these different strategies and utility combinations and smoke combinations. But let's say if you add 1 or 2 smoke combinations, when I say that, I mean you have a round where you're going to, you know, on mid Inferno, you're going to smoke short and smoke B split, which is like the smoke in front of arch that blocks view from small pit and from library, right?
I call it 3/4 smoke.
Yeah, or that. And then out of that, you obviously are trying to have a rounds where you're trying to just take long and maybe go into CT spawn, right? Apply pressure there. But from that same smoke combination, you can have an apps pop, right? Like to change the different, you can throw that smoke combination, and then hit B, right? Like very very quickly behind that, because you're trying to draw the B rotation player to speedway, or to, you know, like you can have these different things, and then once you do it that way, and you just have variations, sometimes you just, you know, use it to draw out whatever it may be, it's easier than if you have one round with those smokes, right? Then
And that's
one
it,
round
yeah.
with different one round with something else, and sure, that makes you, I guess, it doesn't really make you unpredictable if you only do one thing when you do it, right? So
I guess the reason I bring this up is because with the VP conversation, for me, they're a team who played like off meta, right? And with so much data available of how to approach the game on a lot of these maps, I thought that they would probably try and play more on meta. Now, certain things don't work with certain players. Not everybody can replicate the same space or be as good in certain spots, so I can understand. But I just feel like they were calling the game the way they thought it should be played, which is fine if it works.
Just
it's
what
not
everyone
fine.
does, yeah.
It's not fine if it doesn't work, right? And that's why, like, having coaches who have a really strong macro understanding of maybe what is a meta move, and then being able to put your pieces in the right places to be able to facilitate that, that's going to come down to the micro, right? So it's just weird that VP had so many skilled individuals, like Flit and Fame, right? Flamus was obviously very skilled, but very green. Like Electronic, a good rifler, but obviously not anymore. Like it's just weird that they couldn't get it to work.
I look at this very similar. I've always kind of had this angle to where I think when you look at a player like Electronic, I think he brings in similar elements to what we just kind of discussed with what Elige brings into a team when he plays, which are both very smart and very skilled players. But I think both of them have a way of trying to get people to play and make the decisions that they want to be made and the way they want the game to be played, that forces their teammates at times to be more afraid of making the wrong decision than just kind of playing the game in front of them. You know, like they're thinking in the back of their mind, what does Electronic want me to do? What did Elige tell me I have to do in this situation? And I think when players are in that situation where you have such a skilled, dominant player who's so adamant and so emotionally attached to how he wants the game to be played, I think it just does eventually just erode at how effective you can be as a player, because you're now constantly thinking of the game in the moment through the lens of your teammate instead of what you want to do, right?
I understand what you're saying. It's just weird considering he was under the tutelage of Blade as the coach of Na'Vi for so long, right? And like he definitely wasn't the star of the show. He was one of the stars of the show. It was him and Simple, right? It's just.
But who's that counterweight now on VP? Who would be the Simple or the Blade to an Electronic? And this is kind of your point about the coaches.
They did change coach like 7 times or something, right? And and Flit and Fame, I think they'll be more like silent protesters, I'd imagine, as opposed to vocal protesters.
Which is sometimes worse than the vocal protesters. Sometimes you really like the vocal protesters.
Yeah, the silent protesters tend not to get a lot done, unfortunately, and then that's when people just end up unhappy and wanting to leave the team and all that kind of stuff. Not much fun. All right.
Cool.
So this is the Aurora part of the show.
Yes,
welcome. We finally made it. You've been waiting this whole time.
Just to end on the VP thing, I think it's like they upgrade. They promote the academy player over bringing back Flamus. And like that surely means he's off to a different team.
Or it means they didn't like playing with Flamus.
I mean that is definitely an option. Just feels.
Bring back Norbert. Bring back Norbert again.
Norbert is playing for someone else.
Yeah, he went over to Hotu.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So I think he's on loan though. Is he playing?
2-month loan. 2-month loan.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a chance to get Norbert back. There's a chance to get him back.
He's the greatest esports player of all time.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to be done in a minute, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay. So
unless you got any other pertinent information you want to chit chat about.
Just want to talk about Aurora.
All right.
Just quickly.
Yeah, quickly touch on Aurora.
All right, Aurora fans, this is to you. When I was sitting on my couch the other night, watching the Blast London games, thinking about the upcoming event of Fisher, I made a throwaway tweet on social media. The tweet does not express all of my desires. It doesn't express everything I think. It just was in that moment, just a tweet that I made. Just a tweet. All right, that's all it was, guys. It's just a tweet. It's not meant, I didn't intentionally leave you out to rage bait you. Like, I'll be honest, I don't think of your team very often. And that's not because I think they're bad, right? They're just not one of the teams that I think about often. I think Jota is in the conversation for one of the best rookie pickups of this year, right? He's definitely helped elevate Aurora to another level than Calix did. I think Wakadia is also a very fun player to watch. Zantaras and Woxic are the goats of Turkish Counter-Strike. And I like Madja. I think Madja's a cool guy. I talk to Madja all the time. I love that he's a family man. So Turkish Counter-Strike fans, I definitely, if I don't mention your team, I'm not trying to rage bait you. I don't care that much to be rage baiting you. And that might bait you more. You might be more mad about that. But guys, it's my subjective opinion. All right? I'm not racist against Turkish people. I used to play with one. His name's Yam. You guys know him. All right? I got no
have
problem
Turkish
with
friends
you.
too.
Yeah, what are we doing? A South Park episode? We got, we make sure we got every representation. But it's not that deep, guys. I really, I'm not on the internet to troll you guys and get interactions. I make no money from social media. I get no joy out of you guys telling me you're going to rape my family members or for me to kill myself. They get no joy out of that. So look, let's be friends. We don't have to be enemies. You have a good Counter-Strike team. If you feel disrespected because we don't mention you, I'm sorry, but that's a fucking bitch-made mentality. We don't talk about every team in the world.
And if that offends you, fuck you.
And just remember, it's not that we hate, it's that we just don't care.
Yeah, but that makes it seem worse. I feel like they should care more about that than... Yeah, maybe that's the problem.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Aurora are cool. I was gassing up
do
EF
too.
all the time.
I do too. Just, at a certain point during the year, it got a little bit boring to talk about because they made no progress and they didn't drop down significantly. And then there were injuries and Zantaras is missing and,
Whatever.
it just is what it is.
It's just such a shame, man. Like it has to be so fucking vitriolic over nothing. And it's nonsense.
Yeah.
It's just nonsense.
Let's be friends.
What's the point? Be nice to each other.
Just block and move
I
on.
did plenty of that, Yanko. I probably blocked like about 100 fucking people, mate. You wouldn't believe it.
All right. I'm going to go do things. GG's.
All right.